Hello and welcome to Not Another Arsenal Podcast, aka the Scalacci of Arsenal Podcast. My name is Mike Hers, your host. And by the looks of my co-host, gentlemen, are you getting an echo?
Nope.
Are we so good? All right, right on.
We clean.
So, TGP gang, for those of you that are watching on the Gooner Podcast, do not fear. Mikey, Andy. Andy already quit the pod. Fuck that. I'm not going to lie for him. So, Mikey, Owen, and I will still be on the Gooner Podcast. We have simply joined forces to do a few shows on the Gooners Podcast every once in a while. We have been officially acquired. We signed the thing, and we are now going to be doing a few shows every once in a while on the Gooners Podcast. NAAP is still alive and well. We'll still be broadcasting over there, reviewing games and whatnot. But we figured every time we have a little bit of a fun podcast the way we're having right now, we're going to share the love, put it on two platforms. Hopefully more people can join in on the fun. So today we're going to do something slightly different, and we're going to talk mostly about international football. Not a whole lot of Arsenal stuff going on, at least.
Well, there is, but
we don't want to talk.
It's just annoying rumors.
Yeah, exactly. So we settled on early on. We settled on early on NAAP, and we decided whatever we are going to do this summer, we refuse to talk about rumors. So if there's any concrete transfers in, out, whatever, we promise we'll talk about it. But until then, if it's not on the official website, it doesn't exist for us.
Mikey, you're getting Madison about it, right? You're getting real Madison.
We had a mal dia already, not a buen dia. We had a mal dia already. Udegaard went Uda bye already, and so transfers is not. Why
the Lukonga face, Mikey?
Lukonga, we're gonna sell. No, fuck it. We're gonna loan Saliba out just to piss people off to Chelsea out of all the teams, and we're gonna spend 65 is what I'm hearing is my quote sources, aka voices in my head, on Ben White. So
Christ, let's go.
My lawyer is getting sacked in the morning, says Mr. Mike Ringtone. So what we have in store for you today, because the Euros are going on, Copa America going on, we're all huge fanatics of sport in general and not just Arsenal. What we're going to do is discuss our top fives on multiple things, mainly international kits, international goals, in our favorite players, just players that most likely didn't appear for our club, but we just absolutely loved them on field, and hopefully, regrettably, they didn't play against any of our rival clubs. So we're gonna get the ball rolling. We're gonna start off with the kits, and Chris, I am gonna go with you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to spend a lot of time not talking about my own nation of the United States. So this will be the one time where I actually talk about the U.S. And I'm getting an echo now, of course. And my honorable mention was going to be the 2018 Colombia shirt. I love that shirt. It's yellow. If you guys remember, James Rodriguez scored in that, a worldie. Yeah. Love that kit. But that was my sixth choice. My fifth one is the 2017 U.S. Gold Cup shirt, the red and blue with the white lettering. I don't know what it is, but I love a striped shirt, especially a horizontally striped shirt. And I felt like this was just so symbolic of the U.S. It had all the colors. It looks slick. It's a kit I've actually been looking for a long time, and I haven't been able to find it. So Sebi, I need you to get on that for me.
I'm on it.
But it's a sharp kit. I can't say much about the team who wore it, but I love that kit and I want it. So that is my number 5 kit.
Excellent stuff. So
that's a nice
Kelly,
one,
I just saw yours towards the very end. So let me double check, my friend. This is my first time multitasking, so this is going to be quite interesting for me. So,
making you earn it, man.
Doing great so far.
What do I have? So I got you in the opposite order, sir. Number 6, if I don't.
All right. So my number 5 here it's my favorite France kit ever, and it's kind of an obscure one, but I'm somebody who, if you see me on the street in real life, I will probably be wearing a navy blue polo shirt. It's what I always do. The way that Mike Hers wears black T-shirts, I wear navy polo shirts in casual and real life. And this is just the cleanest France kit you'll ever see. It has a white collar. It's simple. It's elegant. I mean, it's the only time I can enjoy navy and white without wanting to vomit out of my nose. So it's a glorious kit, and it makes me think of just genuine class. So it's going to be for France. I believe they wore it in the 2014 through 2015 seasons, and it's one of my favorites for sure. Hey, cock on ball. The good kind of cock on ball, but not the nonsense that happens on the other side of London.
And lovely stuff. I do want to say, Sebi, I'm impressed because I thought you were going to go with a whole French thing going on. I was like France. You threw a little bit of variety in there. So talk us through your first one, which is Brazil 98, if I'm not mistaken, Seb.
This beauty right here. Of course,
Sebi's going to have every single one. But I should just know this.
One-upping us. He brings the literal shirt to the pod.
He's going to bring the player that scored the goal. just
I have Ronaldo right here, guys.
I love this kit. It's just the fabric, the weight of it, and the real Ronaldo wearing it in 98 was just... He was phenomenal. Everything about that kid is just great. There's no words to describe it. It's just amazing. I had it years ago, and stupidly I gave it away. And then, 3 years ago, I was just like, oh man, I wish I had that kit back. And I was able to track it down and find a new one. But yeah, it's just amazing.
You know, I had no idea that you collected so many international kits with your club kits. So that's actually, that's almost scary, Seb, because when I see your Arsenal collection, I'm like, crap, that is a lot. And the fact that you're now pulling out international kits, it's almost scary. So I'm going to kick the ball rolling. It's my drug. It's your drug. Fair enough. Hey, there's worse addictions than kits.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So team that is near and dear to my heart before a certain Leo Messi popped up in the scenes was Argentina. Mainly 1998 Argentina. That Beautiful. Squad, I was absolutely in love with them. Batistuta is one of my all-time favorite strikers. And, he had a pretty decent tournament. And just the traditional striped, the popped-out collar, the blue shorts. I absolutely loved it, man. 1998, I think, is a World Cup that resounds with all of us on the panel the most. Yeah. So my first pick will be 1998 Argentina. Chris, we're going to go back to you with your number 2 kit.
You guys are all picking old stuff, but I'm going to pick a current one, and that is the current Germany black Euro kit. This thing screams badass. It screams German efficiency. It screams intimidation, and we'll see if Germany actually gets their act together and can win a game in it, but I love this kit. This is one that's on my short list to get right now. I love all black kits in general. I love the red and the orange on the arm. I love everything about that kit. It's even though it's just been released, I don't think they've even played a game in it.
I don't think so.
It's quickly become one of my favorites. So I love that kit. I'm a Germany fan, and I can't wait to get it.
Lovely stuff. Up next, we got Kelly with his number 2 on the kits. Kelly, where are you here? 1, 2, 7. Boom. One of my favorite players, too. Look at that. Yeah. I love, you know what my problem is? I love too much, guys. I love all the players in the world.
Yeah. So this is one of those kits that is underrated, right? Because we always think about Croatia for their iconic home kit when they have the checkerboard, and that's pretty standard, and that's always beautiful. But I think this away kit that they sported in 2018 has the same kind of spirit, but is elegant. It's kind of a dark navy on dark color that you don't see very often. And if I'm remembering correctly, they did wear this kit when they destroyed and pulled the guts out of the throat of England and Harry Kane, who I hate more than anybody. And I apologize for everyone offending by this, but fuck it. Glorious. Feeling that heartbreak through the TV.
We should have warned you, if you are English, tuning into an Arsenal podcast. I mean, the chances are slim. You might not like some of our picks going forward. So.
I'm just saying that this was objectively without taking shots at our English brethren. I mean, this and sisterin. This is one of those kits that I always thought was just elegant and sleek, and it looks fast and it plays fast, and it reminds you of a really kind of surprising run to the finals and a really fun team to watch and a lot of really great players and generational players for that country. And so in recent memory, that's a kit that I personally really like, and I just have fond memories of them playing in it and playing really well. So that's my number 4.
Can I just say that Magic Mike might have just introduced a new category for us to consider, the most fuckable head of states from different countries.
I'm not into geopolitics, Chris. Describe.
Guatemala's close.
So good.
See, and now we know. See, I've banned Mike from his own podcast. For those of you that don't know, he wanted to be on so bad, and I was like, "No, we'll just wing it with 3 if somebody can't come in." Mike, you can't. You just can't, because his drawer is full of Kolasinac jerseys, Theo Walcott jerseys, Ozil jerseys. The guy has horrible taste in jerseys, so I'm not having it on this pod. Not today, sir. Sebi, you're up next with your number 2 on the kits.
1994 Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at that thing. It's the collar on it. Just the simple white base, and then the splash of red, yellow, and black on top. He looks almost like a German peacock, if you will. It's just amazing.
Very nice. Very nice. I went with one that's slightly a little bit plain. No surprise here that I needed to throw a Mexican one in there, but 2020 away kit for Mexico, all white. It's the first time I saw like the Adidas stripes go down, green on one side, red on the other. Just clean, not too much going on, but I loved how they did. They included the tricolors of the flag on this one. So
yeah, I like the green and red on each side. That's really nice.
Yeah, that they really outdid themselves on that one. They also did a black edition one that was like ridiculously popular. That this caught wind. They sold so many. It was like record breaking almost, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. Chris, you are up next with your number 3. I believe.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't have the green 98 Mexico jersey with the Aztec.
Oh, my friend, it's coming.
It's coming. Okay. Number 1. Well, it looks like me and Kelly have a similar love affair with navy blue polos, and I love a nice clean kit that has a single color with a white collar. Yeah, I'm hearing an echo too. And it was down to this one, or I think the away version of the 2014 kit also was really nice. It had a white and gray stripe pattern. The gray was real light color. I love that one too, but this one edged it out for me just because the French know fashion. They know how to pull off a shirt, and this one just screamed something you could wear anywhere pretty much, not even just on a pitch, but out and about. So love that kit. I have another French one coming up as my number 1. You guys will have to wait and see what I picked, but I love this kit as my number 3.
Mm-hmm. Lovely stuff. And continue on with the German theme here. Germany got a lot of love. As a Mexican who's gone out in the World Cup a lot in Germany, I can confirm you won't be seeing much German love from me. So.
That's a beautiful one.
Yeah. So 1990 Germany. In my mind, when I think of German national team kits, this is the first one that comes to mind. They obviously beat Argentina in the World Cup final wearing this. It represents the German flag and the kind of that same spirit of German efficiency and clean lines and kind of drawing you in. It speaks to how Germany play football and how they produce footballers and the kind of ruthless efficiency and kind of cold beauty of a really high-powered German team is kind of what you see here. And so, again, in my mind, I generally love the Germany, again, the heavy colors. We're talking the black, the white, the yellow, that kind of rich gold color. They create, and when you do it right, Germany kits look both clean and elegant and intimidating. And this is one of those that does all of those. And truly the first one that springs to mind when I think of Germany was them winning the World Cup in that kit. So that'll always be a classic for me.
Plus, who can pass up a Rudy Voller, permed mullet picture, in that kit? So that thing is awesome. And the stash, all of it. It's just all just amazing.
Yeah, and
it's absolutely epic.
They kind of paid tribute to that kit too.
Yeah.
Without the red, yellow, and black, but just in the lines on their home kit, which was really nice.
Yeah, too bad they filled their fucking pants when they were wearing that tribute to the 1990 team.
Kelly is the enemy of happiness. For those of you that don't know,
he's like a black hole of happiness. He just sucks it all up.
Debbie Aren't you so happy you tuned in? All of you. Aren't you so happy? Levity.
Let's see. We got Sebi up showing the Italian some love.
Yeah, it's the 2000 Euro 2000 Italy kit.
So good.
It was like one of the in the late 90s, early 2000s, all the kits were just super baggy and really, it looked like everybody was wearing a double XL. And then the Italians came out with this skin tight kit, which was designed so the referees could see when their players were getting their shirts pulled easier. And it stood out of the crowd and just simple and it was a game changer of football kits. So I thought it was. I really love it.
Wasn't that the first? Was that the first year that? Was that the first year that a different manufacturer manufactured it? Was it Le Coq Sportif or was that somebody else?
That was Kappa who made that one. Yeah, that was their first kit, I believe, with Kappa. They were with Nike throughout the 90s, and then in 2000 they switched up to Kappa.
That's sweet. That's a nice one. Love it.
Lovely stuff. Now, Kelly, when I was looking for this kit, I envisioned the kit and I'm like, dude, that kit was so beautiful. And I thought to myself, the one time this man made an international appearance, and I couldn't let the opportunity bypass me without showcasing a Spain kit, but not only a Spain kit with your favorite right back in it, Hector Bellerin. So Euros 2016, widely known as the Nacho kit, almost the Dorito kit.
The
Dorito kit, yeah. It was like it just spilled Doritos. On the look of disgust on Kelly's face right now. But Spain Euro 2016, it has to be one of my favorite kits. When I saw that, it just blew my mind. I had never seen a kit like that. It was pretty, out there. Kelly, I know that face isn't so much that I showed you a picture of Bellerin, is that you're just can't cope with the idea that he's leaving us this window. And I'm sorry, my friend.
That's not what it is. He's hungry now. He wants Doritos.
He wants Doritos. Sadness. And let's see, Chris, you are up next with your number 4 choice, I do believe.
Yeah.
Surprise, Kelly and Chris with the same taste here, man.
Me and Kelly. Yeah, for all the reasons that Kelly said, this is the World Cup winning kit. It's iconic for all the reasons that Kelly said as well. The other thing I think is really cool about it is that it's become the template for kits that have come since then. So the 98 kit, if you remember the white one that had no color to it, followed the same exact pattern on the front. And then also, for whatever reason, my kids' club team jerseys that are made by Adidas actually have that exact same design on the front. So it's just become this iconic thing that is forever synonymous with that 1980 Germany team and that kid in particular. And it just screams Germany. And of course, that's my
Arsenal had
team.
Arsenal had a warm-up jacket with the same design on it.
Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, so it's transcended Germany to become this other thing that lives on, but the reference point is always back to Germany, which I think is really cool.
And then our good friend Kelly with direct shots at Mr. Owen Young with this upcoming kit.
So I've noticed that the 2014 Ireland kit that I'm so fond of is effectively the matte green version of the France kit that I love so much as well. But I'm clearly an absolute sucker for a matte, strong collar with a white collar with a kind of a solid colored body. You also recall too with this one, they had green shorts and green socks, which is like the most Irish, pure, just rich forest green color that you've ever seen. I just love this guy. I have no connection to Ireland. I married somebody who's Irish, so unfortunately my children have to deal with that now. But like, it's one of those things where, again, as another, I think how I was attracted to some of these kits is the first kit that popped to mind when I think of these countries playing internationally, and it's Ireland, so they accomplished nothing. It probably involved Robbie Keane doing something stupid and doing a somersault and doing like a machine gun thing when he scored a goal against San Marino or something. But like, because I have no connection to Ireland, because I don't like any Irish players specifically, that kid sticking in like the back of my head is this beautiful, like kind of illustrated, this beautiful representation of a country and the kind of, again, the working class, no bullshit, grinding kind of Irish football culture. I love this kit. It's Umbro. It's everything that you'd want an Ireland kit to be. It's bright green. It's everything that you'd want from that country. So I love this kit. I don't love Irish football at all. I don't care about them, but I remember this kit very, very fondly, and it's one of my all-time favorites.
Lovely stuff, dude. Yeah, that one, as I was receiving the pictures, I was kind of like, okay, this is one hell of a selection. I just didn't see that one coming. So that one was a nice curveball. You know, not widely known, not widely loved. So the fact that you included that one, I like it. Seb, of course. You have it handy, of course.
I got this kit in a small southern town in the south of France called Chris would like to call it Nice, but I bought this kit when I was visiting Nice right before the Euros in the in spring of 2000, and I wore it the entire Euros, and it just so many memories of watching the team win the Euros, and it was like impossible to find in the States. And every time I went to like a French restaurant with my family or a bar with my family to watch the games, everybody was like, "Where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? Like, I'll give you $300 for that kit right now." And I'm like, "Nope." It's just so many great memories from that kit, and just beautiful. The red line on it, that was a throwback from a kit from the 80s. It's just beautiful.
Now I have to point this out. I noticed that a lot of the kits that you guys go with have collars, and collars aren't my thing. Like I don't. Yeah. The whole popping up thing. Kent and I used to do it.
Yeah.
Totti is the one that I kind of remember the most with the pop collar thing, and Batistuta every once in a while with Argentina used to always do it. So
everybody in the late 90s popped their collar.
Yeah. That's when you know you meant business. That was the equivalent of the Alexis Sanchez short roll up, if you will.
Yes.
Showing off his junk, basically. Totally.
Yeah, pretty much. Lovely stuff. And mine, dude, I'm blanking out on the year right now. 2002 United States World Cup, I believe it was.
No. It's 02 they had.
It's Dempsey, so that's got to be like what, 10?
06 maybe.
06 maybe.
06.
There you go. Encyclopedia, that is Sebi with the kits. So 2006 United States World Cup, one of the very, very few international kits that I own. And some of you might be thinking, Mike, you're Mexican. How can you even own an American kit? Well, let me tell you, being a dual citizenship, growing up in America and of parents that are from other countries, it's kind of a weird kind of thing, man. Some people, I'll tell you something about the dynamic between Mexico and United States. Some people, there's two camps here. Either they deem it okay to support both of them, having been birthed in America with the Mexican parents, or that's like supporting Arsenal and Spurs. You can't do that. How dare you? So I'm in the camp of I like them both. So they don't often play with each other. It's kind of nice having both of them in these things. They don't often make it too far away, but lovely stuff. I always like it when America does well, just like when Mexico. So if United States or Mexico ever play the Euros, I promise I'll pay more attention. Okay.
Wait, Mike.
Wait.
That could happen. You know,
Sure.
UEFA's always looking for extra money. So
Yeah. I could see it happen. You're not wrong. I tell you what, Mexican fans travel well. Have you ever seen the away fans?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't
They travel
Japan
well.
play in Copa America one year?
Yeah. They started doing that by invite. They would just invite some random European, well, Japan, non-European, but you get what I'm saying. Money. Chris,
That's right.
with your number one. I'm number one.
Yeah, this is my number one. This will bring a tear to Sebby's eye.
He's so proud.
I know. That was the World Cup that sealed my relationship with football. I grew up playing football as a kid. I watched the '94 World Cup as a kid, but only really because it was in the U.S. So I felt like I had to watch it, but it wasn't something I really consumed as a TV viewer. But '98, I sat and watched most of that World Cup, and I fell in love with the way that Thierry Henry played. And I know he didn't play that much, but there was something about the way he played football in that kit that sealed my relationship not only with football but with Arsenal when he went to Arsenal shortly thereafter, or maybe it was right around that time, whenever that was. I think it was right shortly thereafter. And so I traveled with Henry to Arsenal, and it was largely because of what he did in that shirt. Again, he didn't do a lot, but there was a spark, something that I saw in Henry that I loved watching him play. And so that kit has a whole bunch of memories for me. It's not only a nice looking kit, but it's all the nostalgia of what I have wrapped up in this game as a fan. And I love that kit. If you guys notice that the current 2020 France kit looks really similar to it. It's got the white stripes, got the red, the thicker red stripe. I love that shirt as well. Could have easily picked that one, but for all the reasons and all my attachments to that World Cup and that team and Henry in particular, that's my number one.
Lovely stuff. And talking about nostalgia, Kelly is killing me over here with this picture of these two legends, Milan legends, if you will.
I love that kit.
Amazing.
That kit was absolutely insane. Go ahead, Kelly, tell the people about it.
This is the best football kit ever. I don't see a reason why not. I mean, you're talking about one of the all-time great football nations with one of the best collection of players of their generation. And even it has the kind of ability to both be bold and be classic and sleek at the same time, which is really, really hard because we talk about some of the super ostentatious ones that are kind of ironically funny. I like the US denim one from the World Cup in the US, but it's not. Is that one of the top 5 greatest kits? No, probably not. It's silly. It's funny now that we look back at it. I would wear it in public, but it's with a wink, not with a gasp of awe. And this, I mean, this Netherlands kit here it's gorgeous. The colors are perfect. You can wear them. They wore them with red shorts and with white, and they both look absolutely beautiful. The orange is bright and vibrant, but it's not overwhelming. I love this. This is my favorite Arsenal home kit ever, by the way. The one from last year. It has the classic stripes on the side. It has the kind of classic 80s style collar with the cross in front, which I absolutely love. And all the things I love about this Arsenal kit that makes it one of my very favorites, even though it's so recent, is one that again, even with the black classic Adidas logo and the classic kind of blacked out Netherlands national crest, it's an absolutely perfect kit. You wouldn't, if you had the opportunity to change it, you wouldn't change anything. And it's so representative to a lot of the things that we really love here of the nation, and kind of again the kind of complicated elegance and patterns and colors that bring to mind some of those great players and some of those great moments. And in my mind, this is the best kit that we've ever seen, for sure.
It's absolutely brilliant, man. And I mean, the squad in itself was brilliant in itself. I every time I think about kits that I like, I think about teams that I liked, players that I liked. I think that's what kind of there's a connection there for me. So, when I'm looking at these kits, I just start thinking about players that used to play in those teams. And I'm kind of stuck in the late 80s, early 2000s when it come for me for being peak football. Maybe it was just a happier time all around for all Arsenal fans, of course. But there are certain stars, certain personalities and a certain feeling of love for the sport that I might be overselling myself, that I might just I just feel like football has changed. So when we talk about that era of football, it's just brilliant stuff. Kelly, Sebi, it was never not going to be a France jersey as number one. Of course. What a player you chose to send me to.
It's the day Arsenal won the World Cup, and it's just Chris said it earlier before. It's just, where is it? Amazing kit. This was like almost exact replica of the 1982 or 84 Euros kit that when France won the Euros in France, in Spain. I think they won it in Spain. And it just so many great memories of watching that team. Watching Vieira and Petit play together. It's kind of like, I'm like, who are these guys? And I like, same as Chris, I followed them to Arsenal, so just so many great memories of that shirt and winning the World Cup, and then finding Arsenal through watching that team and those players.
Lovely stuff, gentlemen. So we're gonna go with players next. I was still debating in my mind what we're gonna leave last, because I feel like we're gonna spend a lot of time on goals, because there's some crazy goals that we got going off.
Mikey, what's your number one?
What's your number one, Mikey?
Oh, whew, forgot about that, huh? Number one. I mean, guys. The theme of night. I mean, we all know, right? I mean, this is
it's got to be
98
yes.
Mexico.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean,
there it is.
It's the Mexican jersey with record sales. There's never been one to sell this much. To find one in a decent condition is almost impossible. And I purposely chose this player, which is Luis Hernandez. And no, it's not because his last name is Hernandez, but because he is actually a top historical goal scorer with the most goals in the World Cup. And for some reason, when we talk about Mexican media, Luis Hernandez, he hardly ever gets any love. It's mostly Hugo Sanchez because of what he did in Real Madrid. But on an international level, not club level, international, Luis Hernandez almost never failed for us. So I got nothing but love for that man. But yeah, the 1998 World Cup Mexico won with the Aztec symbol right on the chest.
Do you have collar.
No, collar, Mike.
Collar, and yes, dude. What Mexico's been doing as of late with changing its colors, it's kind of driving me up the wall a little. But they used to do this thing where it was always green shirt, white shorts, red socks. And that was the image that I grew up with. So every time I think about that, it's just lovely stuff, man. I just love seeing them play at home. So yeah, 1998 World Cup, one of my favorites. Sebi, you're the man with the links to all the kits. So by the end of this podcast, I'm expecting at least 3 links with that shirt. And
that shirt, right? if you can find an original, it's really expensive. I tried to find one, but they do make really good remakes that you can get for a decent price. So
Ray Anderson with the Cuauhtemoc Blanco.
Yeah,
I love that. And our good friend Mike Frenberg, he's summing up. It's no more Hernandez. It's going to be Luis Hers as well. You'll love to see it. So, gentlemen, we're going to deep dive into our top 5 favorite players that most likely never arrived at our club for one reason or another. But Chris, you're up next with your number 5.
Yeah, I'm going to get some hate for this because this guy was a
Chris, I got your back. Everybody's going to hate all of mine, so you're good.
No, Kelly, remember you have like 2 that people are going to have to Google search it to figure out who you're talking about. So go for it, Chris.
So I didn't pick any Arsenal players just because I felt like that was a cheat code and that we would have just been talking about people we talk about all the time. So I picked my top 5 non-Arsenal players, and I tried to choose people who I've actually seen play. Of course, like there are players that we might admire that we've seen video of, but we never watched. So I really focused on basically anybody who has played in the last roughly 25 years and has not played for Arsenal. So you'll see, with the exception of my number one player, perhaps all the players that I will feature are guys that you would probably consider as being underrated. And I think Michael Ballack is kind of the epitome of a player who I think was vastly underrated for what he brought to the game. He was the Germany captain, UEFA Club Midfielder of the Year, German Footballer of the Year 3 times. He won the Bundesliga 4 times, blah, 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 blah. He won the Premier League with Chelsea. He was a 3-time FA Cup winner. And I think we would all be talking about what he did for the game if he would have actually won the Champions League or won the World Cup or even the Euros. The problem was he was a runner-up in all 3 of those under some really fairly unlucky conditions. And so I think he's a guy who's underappreciated. I loved his game. He was incredibly two-footed. He was a physical enforcer in the center of the pitch. He was tactically flexible to the point where he could play pretty much every single midfield position, and he did. He played deep. He played in central midfield. He played often in attacking midfield, if not, as the position that he was given as, the guy who was effectively playing in an advanced position. He was a big personality on the pitch. He was a free kick maestro. He was just a complete midfielder, and he played for Germany, which is a team I admire. So, my only regret is that he played for Chelsea. It takes a little bit of the shine off of him for me. But I was a fan of his before he went to Chelsea, so fuck it. I like Michael Ballack, and he's my number 5.
Yeah, was he part, if I'm not mistaken, of that 2002 Champions League Leverkusen team?
He was. And
he was,
yeah.
Yep. I remember. Sebi, do you remember what happened that game?
I'll talk about it later.
Okay. Kelly, you're up next with the most random of players. I like your list, Kelly, I gotta say, so go for it, sir.
Okay, so this is somebody who, and I kind of like guys that are almost forbidden because of their trajectory. So I have rooting interest specifically at Arsenal and then into the Bundesliga. And Felipe Luis is somebody who I absolutely love as a footballer. He's one of those guys that is like beautifully unconventional as a footballer and as a person. Like, he's one of those guys where the old story of Felipe Luis is not only has he played for like a million different teams and kind of taken this really bizarre and kind of storied past to getting and being in kind of the place to be around all these really big moments. But he's really, really smart, and he was going to be a doctor, and I guess his family talked him out of it because he was so good at football, which is super, super funny. But Luis is an incredibly smart footballer. He's fast. He's versatile. Anybody who played. He was part of that original Diego Simeone Atletico that took them, and he's just nails too. In addition to being a really elegant footballer, and he's somebody that doesn't get a lot of credit as being one of the better fullbacks of his generation because he was kind of outshined by a couple big stars at Brazil. He's moved around an awful lot, and still he's now in his like mid to late 30s in Brazil, and by all accounts is one of the very best players in the Brazilian league as well. So for a guy who is again an unconventional person, an unconventional fullback, think of what we think as Arsenal fans think Nacho Monreal is, but really, really, really good. And a really good version, and not just like a steady 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Like Felipe Luis is what Monreal would think that he would be on his best day, but every single day since about 2009. He's a marvelous player and a really interesting guy, and somebody that I wasn't able to cheer for because he had a brief stint at Chelsea, those fuckers. And I was very, very excited when he went back to Atletico so I could start cheering for him again. But he's one of my very favorite players, and I think I think the world of him on a human level and as a player, and I think he's somebody that we would never think of. So I felt compelled to include him in my list as people who, again, devoid of Arsenal connection, staying away from U.S. men's national team players. He's a guy who I have an awful lot of time for that is going to be kind of forgotten in 5 to 10 years, which is a shame because he's an outstanding professional.
Oh, dude, unfortunately for him, he had a really great career. I'll go as far as saying a lot of people already did forget about him. But what he did for that Athletic Madrid team, and he was able to transition seamlessly into Chelsea. Dude, guy was a great left back for sure. I'm just absolutely amazed that he never really stuck around with any club for too long. He was just all over the place. But the fact that he's still playing, not in Europe anymore, but still pretty impressive.
He was Pablo Mari's teammate when they won. They won in Brazil. They won everything in Brazil. That's crazy. I'd forgotten about that. I can't believe he's still playing.
Yeah, but and not only that, he's still one of the, by all accounts, one of the best players in the Brazilian domestic league too, at his age, which I think he's 35, so he's going to coming up on 36, and he's still an outstanding player.
You know, gentlemen, I think we found the solution to our left back situation.
Dude, I'm here for it. I am here for it.
All right, Sebi, you are up next, sir.
The real Ronaldo. Listen,
shots fired.
When this guy was in his prime, like when he was coming up in his prime, like I hated him. I hate him because he played for Inter. I like Juventus. Before that, he played for Barcelona. I like Real Madrid. And then when he finally showed up at Real Madrid, I was like, oh yes, I can finally cheer for this guy. I can love him. But deep down inside, I loved him because he was just so damn good. Just the way he took on players, he didn't give a shit what was in front of him. He was gonna run through them, or he'll freaking do some fancy footwork and just mesmerize people. Like they don't know where the ball is, and he's just gone. He's such an amazing direct player, and just he was just a phenom, as his proper nickname was given to him. He's just amazing player to watch. It's so sad to see just through injury that like he kind of fell out of the game, but such a great exciting player to watch.
Absolutely. I resisted. I did my best not to add him to my top 5, but just because I didn't want to bring him up over and over. But till this day, I'll say that Ronaldo for me was the best football player I've ever had the privilege of watching with my own 2 eyes, because I know that there's a few in the past, and I'm sure Messi and hashtag fake Ronaldo fans will truly just butcher me for saying that. But Ronaldo was Ronaldo was absolute peak for me. So one of the things that I appreciate dearly when it comes to a football player is longevity, and not only longevity in a very high demanding quality type of thing. So this player lasted a very long time. Xabi Alonso played for Liverpool, went to Madrid, and when he was winding down mid-30s or early 30s in Madrid, I'm like, okay, he's going to go to Real Sociedad, where he first came back, and he's going to wind down. Nope, he just went to Bayern Munich and just continued to perform at the highest level. One of those players that has won absolutely everything. So Xabi Alonso, I have one of the original, for me at least, deep lying playmakers. Just absolutely loved him. I know there was an opportunity where he was begging to come for Arsenal, but stop. Okay, I won't.
I was gonna say your boyfriend wanted him to come by.
My boy, he's coming up. Don't worry, he is coming up. So yeah, Xabi Alonso would be my first pick on the top 5. What a signing! What a signing! I wish. What a player!
Yeah.
Chris, you're up next.
Mike, what would you have done if you would have come and been our assistant coach under Arteta? Because we know that those two are close, and there was rumors that he might come and sit underneath Arteta as assistant coach.
Bro, look, for those of you that don't know, Chris and I share a DM group with a lot of American fellow Gooners, and all morning Chris could vouch for I was batting for Arteta. You know how bad I would be if both Arteta and Xabi, I would be obnoxious, dude.
We would be getting relegated, and you'd still be defending them.
Yeah. I'd go full Thai FC. Like I'd be like, it's raining. Okay, I don't want to hear. And then I'll chime in with like the Klopp wind, whatever it takes. Okay.
Well, there was a full moon, so
the ocean level. Let's see here, Chris. Number 2 for you is let's talk about longevity.
Yeah, it is Philipp Lahm, another German. And for as much as I think Ballack was underappreciated because he didn't win big things, I think Philipp Lahm is still underappreciated, and he won everything. He played at Bayern for most of his career. I think like a decade. He was their captain. He won the Champions League, I know, at least once with Bayern. He won the World Cup in 2014 with Germany right before he retired. The thing what I love about him is that he's 5'7". He weighs probably less than all of us. I'm sure he weighs less than all of us, even though I know I'm the skinny guy on the pod. But the guy was not a physical specimen by any stretch of the imagination, and yet every pitch he stepped on, he was often the best defender. And that meant whether he was a left back, a right back, or a defensive midfielder, and he played all three, by the way. He was a fantastic defender. He was tactically intelligent. He was versatile. He was positionally aware. He was a ridiculously refined tackler for his size. Again, 5'7", that's a disadvantage when you're playing defense and especially in tackling. But he was ridiculously good at, and it was just a guy who never ran out of energy. He was always running all over the pitch, and I admired that intensity and his ability to get everything out of the limitations that he was given physically. He made the most out of, and I appreciate those kinds of players. So while I know people love Brazilian fullbacks, I'm not sure any of them are convincingly better than Philipp Lahm, and I will go to my grave defending that position. So.
Can any of you confirm this? Dean was asking, did Lahm ever get a red card in his career?
I
feel like that's true.
That is a great trivia factoid. I have no idea.
True.
He's generally been. I mean, he's one of the greatest gentlemen of football, especially modern gentlemen. He's a guy too, Chris, that I think we have an awful lot of overlap with our own backgrounds and the teams that we watch. And as somebody who is a Dortmund supporter, it's really nice when some of these really great Bayern guys retire, because then you can kind of wax poetic about the caliber of person and captain he was, and again a guy who could have played 6, 7, 8 more years, but he had other goals which you got to respect too, and he burned very, very brightly for a shorter period of time, but by his own choice, not by injury or illness or anything.
I might be wearing my tinfoil hat here, but he's captain of Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich get calls all the time. No wonder he's never been sent off.
Come on now.
I'm just saying.
I love it.
That could be the tinfoil hat speaking. I'm not sure.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Now, I know we said we're not going to discuss rumors, but seeing as Kelly supports Dortmund, God, I want them to, that rumor of Guendouzi going over there to be true so bad, so I could just annoy the piss out of you.
Mikey, the world hates me enough for that to be true.
Yeah, literally anytime they tie or lose, I'm like, did Guendo start? That's what I want to know. That's going to be our whole next season, by the way. So
you could just imagine Arsenal Twitter like losing its shit if he does go there, and then they sell him for 200 million, because that's what they do with everybody that they buy.
Seriously,
we got Mike Feinberg, aka the boss now, so I'm obligated to read out his comments. But he does point out that the legendary Alan Smith, a player that we know that I hold near and dear in my heart, played for, and I quote, these are factual numbers, Mike would never provide fake numbers, 394 years with the Arsenal and only got 1 yellow card. That's quite freaking amazing, speaking about longevity.
Wow.
Well, after year 20, he couldn't move. He was in a wheelchair. Right?
Another player, Kelly, speaking about longevity, historical. I remember a poker of goals, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about your pick number 2, Kelly.
So Miroslav Klose belongs to this interesting category of players that is much better internationally than he is domestically, which absolutely fascinates me as we'll continue going through. But he is a guy. He is the all-time record scorer in World Cups. He played in 4 different World Cups. So here's a fun factoid about Miroslav Klose. He scored his first international goal with Germany in 2001. He scored twice. In 2002, he scored 12 international goals in 17 appearances. He scored double digits again in 2006 and again in 2010. And he still scored 3 in his last year. He scored 3 goals in 7 caps in 2014. He played 14 seasons internationally with Germany, and he scored 71 goals, and he scored in over half the goals that he played in. And he's also, I mean, retroactively, I can admire him too for playing for Lazio and playing at a pretty darn high level as he kind of concluded his career. But he's just one of those guys too, in kind of true German football fashion, where he had a limited amount of talent, but his intelligence and guile and longevity and physical and emotional and mental robustness allowed him to play at this incredibly high level for a really, really long time. And in my opinion, he did it with an awful lot of like class. He was a very kind of erudite, respectable player too. And a lot of the players I like are villains, and we'll get into that. So maybe I think Miroslav Klose is a little bit of an antidote to the type of player that I normally really enjoy watching, by having him be just kind of a class statesman of the game, played and was successful, and not only in Germany but in Italy too. And on an international level, he's the most consistent goal scorer in World Cup history. And he's a guy that, another one of those guys that in 5-10 years, not a lot of people are going to remember his name, which is a shame, because he was an outstanding player and a great pro and a really kind of elegant statesman of European football.
Seb, you couldn't resist. You couldn't resist, huh, Seb? We all resisted temptation about Arsenal players. Here comes Sebi, and in number
going
4
in hard.
Going in hard.
Dennis. How many all-time great goals have you seen him score?
Yes.
I'm going to be talking about one of his goals later on in the pod, but just that, just in Arsenal colors, that goal against Newcastle, where he just flicked it around the defender with outside of his boot, turned the other way, ran around them, caught it, and then side footed into the far corner. It's just, and he could do that any game, every game. He would pull something out of his bag of tricks like that. Just so composed on the ball, saw the game better than anybody that he played against. Just an amazing player. Another guy that brought me to Arsenal. That seeing him in '98, before the World Cup, through Fox Sports World, but then seeing him again during the World Cup and seeing him play against Argentina, just an amazing player.
Absolutely, he's. I don't think there's an Arsenal fan that'll deny that. He's such a freaking stud, man. He did it on international level, club level. He's one of those players, it's similar to what Kelly was saying, that he has some players that he chose that shined either internationally or club. Bergkamp just did it all. He was just above and beyond. So my next pick, this is going to surprise nobody that this man made my list. Speaking of Arsenal legends, I had to, sorry. Cesc Fabregas. Kelly and I have had lengthy conversations about the manner in which he left and how he ended up playing with Chelsea. But Fabregas, man, this kid, I say kid when he debuted with us, but he got into, the mullet. Oh my gosh, dude, peak with the highlights in his hair. Yeah, I remember that. But he was one of the last players involved from the Invincibles to leave Arsenal, from that dying breed of winners, as I like to refer to them. He's played in the highest level since he was 17. He got his debut. I think he started at 16 actually. 16. And he's been playing in nothing but quality football since. Arsenal, Barcelona. He went to Chelsea for a few years, and even his latter years right now, he went to Monaco. And you would think he would fizzle out, but he's still in France, just pulling all the strings, just playing brilliant football. He also helped during COVID, if I do remember correctly, with foregoing his own wages in order to make sure that his teammates got paid, which was a nice bit of love from his end, because obviously he had a little bit more, or a lot more, of a decorated career, so he's been able to accumulate a little bit more wealth. So yeah, nothing but love for him. Chris, you're up next with your number 3.
Mikey, I'll slide in. Doesn't he feel like he's trying to buy his way into heaven, though, Mike?
Moving on forward, Chris. I'm not going to entertain this, Kelly. Hey!
The man who's known simply as Pirlo. Talk about a guy who got the most out of his physical giftings. I mean, when you watched him play, he was not fast. He was not strong. He was not athletic. And yet, I was watching a comp of him today just to remind me of how brilliant he was. And nobody could take the ball off of him. He was that deep lying playmaker that we desperately want at Arsenal that we can't seem to find. That just simply we couldn't press him. They couldn't take the ball off him. And then furthermore, when you think about what he did further up the pitch, he was Milan and Juventus's, and you would know this better than anybody, Mike, being a Milan fan.
Yep.
He was the playmaker, the orchestrator, the visionary, the creator. He was a free kick expert. He did everything for those teams. Not everything, but he did a lot for those teams. And he was such a beautiful player to watch. He won 6 Serie A titles, 2 Champions Leagues, a FIFA World Cup, a bunch of Coppa Italia, Supercoppa Italiana titles. And I just think he's another guy like Philip Lahm that got absolutely everything out of what he was naturally given. And it was just a joy to watch him put it all together on the pitch. Something that Buffon said about him in 2011 when he was transferring from Milan to Juventus, I think was really well said. He said, the first thing I thought was God exists, a player of his level and ability, not to mention that he was free. I think it was the signing of the century. And I think Buffon was right. He looks a little bit like the Italian Jesus. I think Buffon was right. But yeah, not a great manager, not a great situation from at Juventus, but an awesome player to watch.
So it's funny you say that, because when he was coaching, when he was playing in NYCFC, he came into my store and I sold him a pair of shoes.
Of course, you have a story about it.
Of course.
And
I'm here for it.
Anybody we love, Sebi has spoken to.
It was like I was in the presence of Jesus. I was on the floor, I'm looking around, and there's nothing going on. And then he just turned the corner, and I saw these heavenly lights. I heard angels singing, and he's walking towards me. I'm like, oh my God, is it Jesus? No, it's Pirlo. It was like an out-of-body experience that
Before
day.
Sebi sold him a pair of shoes, he asked him to take off his socks and he washed his feet.
That's a good line.
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes.
That might have happened.
That might.
I would not.
One of my favorite quotes from a brilliant player that I hold very near and dear to my heart as well is Gennaro Gattuso, where they asked him once during his Milan career with Pirlo and said, "Hey, they're giving him a bunch of like heights, like, dude, you're one of the best midfielders in Waka Waka," and he just rebuttals with, "Don't confuse Nutella with shit. When things go hard, all I do is give the ball to Pirlo." That's it. That was his response. He's like, I'm not going to even allow you to give me a compliment. He goes, I don't make things happen for Milan. I just get the ball and give it to Pirlo. So the guy was such an actual magical player to watch, dude.
One of my favorite memories of him is taking the penalties against England, I think in Euro 2000. I forgot.
Was it
one
the
day we
Chip
went to
versus-
the final.
Chip versus England?
Yes. And the amount of disrespect he gave to the City goalkeeper. What's his name?
Hart.
Yes. The amount of disrespect he gave to him by just chipping him, and it was amazing. It was if you don't remember that goal, just look at Pirlo goal, a penalty kick in the Euros. It's amazing.
Cool, calm, and composed. The man is a complete psychopath. I don't know how you pull that off. So
it was amazing.
Kelly, you're up next, showing some Germany love over here with an Arsenal great.
Oh God. So I'm happy to say Podolski, as I try to stay away from Arsenal players, because I love Podolski just in spite of his time here. He was bought to be a number 9, which is ridiculous because he's basically like a thumping, talking left wing second striker, and he has been his entire career. But he was the guy who I loved before he came to Arsenal, and I was absolutely giddy that when he came, and he was awful for Arsenal. Maybe not awful, but he was not good for Arsenal, and he's continued this kind of bizarre like kebab shop victory tour where he's still playing. and he's gone to Inter and Galatasaray and Japan and Turkey, and he's kind of like doing these 1-year contracts and still being a guy that everybody likes because he's jovial and fun. But I mean, he was before he became the Lucas Podolski retirement tour in his mid-30s. He was an outstanding player. So he was playing for Germany when he was very, very young. He had almost 150 caps with Germany. He played in, I think it was like 6 major tournaments with Germany. He was an outstanding winger and a player who was actually, bizarrely enough, it was like he and Bastian Schweinsteiger were the up-and-coming wingers for the German national team at one time. But he's a guy who, again, maybe is an antidote to the players I normally like. He's an exuberant fan favorite. Was very loyal to his hometown club of Cologne. Went back there after he got his big money move to Bayern to make sure to kind of stave off relegation. He's somebody who endears himself very well to other players. And in fact, the last major tournament he played with Germany, the only reason that he was really there was because of his personality. And he wasn't there on merit anymore. But he's a really, really good guy in the locker room. And he's got, people forget about this, but he's got one of the best left foots that we've seen in this generation. He's got a V10 engine for a left leg that can just go upper 90 like nobody's business. And before he started slowing down a little bit, kind of mid-career, he was a guy who was a very good athlete and had some pace and did a lot of interesting things with the ball too. But he's a guy that will always be near and dear to my heart because he was one of my favorite players. Before he came to Arsenal, and I continue to really enjoy him as a person and a professional since then. And I felt compelled to include him because what he did at Arsenal has nothing to do with what I feel about him, because what he did at Arsenal was not very good. So maybe he might be one of those first players that we bought and didn't make any money. He might be the guy who started the last 30 players we didn't make any money on. It might be Podolski, but I don't fucking care.
He had a great song.
Oh, and again, everybody. He's not gonna ever have to buy a beer in London the rest of his life because he's an incredibly lovable cherub of a human being, and that continues as he tours Europe now and Asia.
Yeah, I loved him when he was with us. I just felt I almost felt he was a little too more interested in his social media presence than like his playing on the field. But I loved him. I was so excited when he came to the club.
You got your Germans confused. We're talking about Podolski, not Ozil. Sevi, you are up next.
What can I say? Like
the king.
Like that was, I think, in that picture, I think that was the first game of the World Cup in '98 against South Africa. And he scored, and then he just does this arrogant celebration where he just walks to the corner flag, holds it, and then just throws it to the ground. And when I saw that, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy just doesn't give a shit about anything, and just baller. Just like he was like the Michael Jordan. You ever see The Last Dance? How Jordan like wanted to beat everybody and couldn't stand to lose. That was him. To me, that's how I felt he was. He hated to lose, and he would make somebody look ridiculous to prove a point that he's the alpha dog on the pitch. And I loved every single second of watching him play. It's just amazing. As far as international, it kind of ended in a bad way with like the handball nonsense, and then that whole World Cup in South Africa was just a total shit show. But I loved watching him play. Just an amazing player. And when he finally came to Arsenal, I was over the moon that he was coming to the club.
Seb, I love that comp with Jordan because Jordan was my childhood hero. I was a basketball fan first and foremost as a kid, and then when he retired or went away from the Bulls, which was my childhood team, I think that made it right for me to pick up soccer as like the extension of sports. And I think you're right. I don't think I ever put this together, but he has a lot of the attributes in terms of his competitive desire and this cutthroat mentality, willing to win at any cost that Jordan had. I think that's probably why I was so attracted to the way he played in '98, but I didn't put it together until now. That's a really well stated comparison.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. Up next for me, speaking, I just glanced over there real quick. Speaking about alphas, gentlemen, we all knew that this man was going to make it into my list.
Yeah.
Zlatan. Oh, Zlatan. The man has won. The man with the potentially biggest ego in the world of football, but the man that has literally backed it up every single time, in my opinion. There's not a place where he's arrived where he's not delivered. He's shown that he could do it in pretty much any league. He famously is not very much in love with Pep Guardiola, as we all know, with the manner in which his Barcelona stint happened. But Zlatan Ibrahimovic, for me, just represents a player that when he goes to a team, he doesn't just go to a team with his quality. He goes to his team with a culture. And similar to you guys speaking about Michael Jordan and Henry, he's a no bullshit type of guy. And I'm going to bring up this example for as much as obviously I'm not an Inter fan. You guys all know me for being a Milan fan, but what he did when he left Juve, the manner in which he changed the culture, he spoke to the owner and said, "You need to stop giving us win bonuses when we win all the time, because we're not winning the league." Like he took that initiative. He went and changed the whole locker room, and he noticed that when lunch was being served, everybody had cliques, and he spoke to the group and said, "Cut this shit out. There's no cliques. There's one team." And he changed the face of that Inter Milan team that had Ronaldo even try and win them a league, and they couldn't win a league with him. And he just continued that his whole career. He changed the whole perception and culture at Inter. They won the league in God knows how many years. Continued winning. Went to PSG won, Barcelona won. Delivered a dying, aging Milan team when he arrived to us with Thiago Silva. Also delivered a league. God, what a player, and a player that we will be discussing a lot when it comes to goals. Because for fuck's sake, Zlatan knows how to score a goal.
What do you think the score would have been if he was fit and playing with Sweden against Spain last week?
It's hard. It's legit hard for me not to believe that he would not have had an impact. I tell you, even at the age that he has, and the numbers are there for everybody to see. This Milan team that finished second this season, achieving Champions League in the first time in 8 years, I think it was. This Milan team with Zlatan in it and without Zlatan in it, despite his age, it's night and day. It's completely amazing. So I wouldn't put it past them to have served up a beautiful ball for Isaac. I
think they win 2-0 if he was playing in that game.
Mikey, he's going to be 40 in October. 40 years old. There's a great argument to be made when the ball rolls out next fall that there's never been a better professional athlete at 40 years old than Zlatan is now, because he is somebody by which still everybody is compared to. Physical, there's never been a better combination of physical size and technical ability in the history of football than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's that good. He's that audacious. He's somebody who I didn't pick him because I knew you would, I guess. But he's one of those guys that even as he's aged too, by all accounts, he's been an outstanding mentor and leader in the Milan dressing room for a lot of young players and kind of pulling together a lot of kind of cobbled together stuff by our good friend Ivan Gazidis over there. And he's a guy who he's become now in the last 4 or 5 years the guy that clubs need him to be, and he's still scored at an absolute, like, quite literally a staggering rate where he's going to be a guy who's going to score 40 or 50 club goals after he turns 40.
One of my favorite things about him is the amount of shit talking he does. One that comes to mind every time I think about him is when he was at PSG and they were playing. He was playing Marseille. And Joey Barton and him got into it in the middle of the game. And Barton said, "Oh yeah, shut up, big nose." And he started going like this. And then Zlatan said, "Big nose." And then he grabbed his junk and he's saying, "Yeah, your big." It was the greatest thing. It was so effing funny.
It's like the audacity of Joey Barton to say anything to Zlatan besides
Yeah,
please and thank you is fucking hilarious to me.
that sums up Joey Barton actually very well if you think about it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm
Unreal.
sure you could find that on YouTube if you
Oh,
if you haven't seen
Oh,
it.
dude,
I
Zlatan
remember.
he's had some of the greatest quotes out there, man.
Yeah.
Was it the Mother's Day or Valentine's Day? They asked him what he was gonna get his wife, and he's like, "She has me. What is it to give him?" You know, it's just he has so many great
He
quotes,
talks
man.
about himself as in the third person, which is just
says it
a
all.
Seinfeld.
Really,
It's a Seinfeld episode. It's amazing.
love it.
He's a character on Seinfeld. He's Kramer's cousin.
I'm not gonna be. I won't be able to look at Kramer now without thinking about Zlatan.
Just imagine Zlatan going, "Giddy up." It's amazing.
Just busting through the door. All right, Chris. Up next, Chris, you're number 2 on your list.
Xavi. Most people talk about Iniesta in that Barcelona midfield. I give you Xavi. Maybe the best club team you've ever seen is that 2008 to 2012 Barcelona teams under Pep. They were absolutely unstoppable with Messi, and Busquets was also in the midfield. But, you know, that sort of spine of that team was just unstoppable. They possessed teams to death. They squeezed them to death. They passed around them to death. And the reason for that, in large part, was because of what Xavi brought to that midfield. And yet, when you think about how important he was to maybe that best club ever in Barcelona, he is not even talked about often in the top 20 of footballers of all time. And I think that's absolutely criminal. I think the guy is absolutely a stone cold case for a top 20 player of all time, maybe even higher than that. To me, he's the most intelligent midfielder ever to play the game. He had the vision of Johan Cruyff in terms of what I've seen of Cruyff and what I've read about Cruyff. And he also had the technical ability to pull off everything he envisioned on the pitch. And he saw things that no one else saw. People give praise Ozil for what he saw. Xavi did that 10 times better than Ozil. Sorry, I'm here for the Ozil beef, but Xavi was 100 times the player that Ozil ever was. I think he defined what being a playmaker was for an entire generation. And he showed it by winning everything with that Barcelona squad as the tactical fulcrum of that team. So I love watching a playmaker. You guys obviously know that now, having seen Pirlo also in my top 5 and to some degree Michael Ballack. But for me, out of all the playmakers that have ever played the beautiful game that is football, he is the best to ever do it, in my opinion. And he's so fun to watch. I'll often find myself going back and watching comps of him just, you know, passing the ball, dribbling the ball, receiving the ball, moving off the ball. I mean, the guy just did everything in an exceptional way. So Xavi Hernandez for me is my number 2.
In order for me to maintain my consistency with my
I know you hate Barcelona.
well, hold on. I'm gonna make it even better. If I'm here to piss off people, I might as well piss them off.
Do it.
You know what Messi has never done? Won a Champions League without Xavi and Iniesta in the midfield.
Damn.
There,
Well,
I said it.
Thanks for ruining my number 1, Mike. Here we go.
No. I'm just, hey, Xavi. I think Xavi Hernandez in that Barcelona.
Xavi
Hers. Yeah, Xavi Hers in that Barcelona. I don't think people comprehend how important he was for not only for Barcelona but for Spain. That man was absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
Kelly, you just had
Xavi to Eduardo
Vargas. And now Kelly's here to bring us down. Okay, go ahead, Kelly. Give the listeners something to Google search. Go for it.
Yep. So lock in with me, everybody. So players that I really love a lot of times, it's style of play players and players that don't make any sense. Those are players that I really, really enjoy. And Eduardo Vargas is one of those players that makes absolutely no sense. But by any objective, reasonable standard, he has had a mediocre club career for somebody who would be considered one of the elite players or even a fringe elite player of South America, right? So if we're going on the Tour de Vargas here, he performed well domestically in Chile, did nothing at Napoli, was loaned out to a bunch of players, including QPR. He's only scored more than 10 goals domestically 3 times in a career that started in 2006. So he's a guy who is a good support player, but is largely an energetic, endeavoring, but kind of lacking clinical edge wide forward. That's what you define him as. But when he goes back and plays internationally for Chile, something fucking bizarre happens to him. He becomes a press channel running monster with robotic legs that's produced some of the most interesting and crazy goal volume games and big tournament moments in the last 10 to 15 years in South American football. So over here in the United States, we have the ability to watch in our own hemisphere at normal times. We see Gold Cup, we see Copa America, and kind of when I was, he scored this week. He scored like 2 days ago. Of course he did, because he's Eduardo Vargas and he was humping a channel for like fucking 30 minutes.
He scored against Emi Martinez. That's the important part.
You're welcome, Arsenal Twitter. Google that. But like he's one of those guys that like he took this system. So for people who don't know, and people might get into this later on because I think it's going to come up, but Chile has this really interesting golden generation. They basically have played for the last decade straight, includes Gary Medel, Alexis Sanchez, Eduardo Vargas. There's a lot of guys who have played an awful lot of European football in their golden generation. But he's one of those guys that none of those accomplishments, the multiple Copa America wins, they beat Argentina twice in Copa America finals. These don't happen without Eduardo Vargas. And he's a guy who has, again, I don't think he doesn't come off. He sprints channels all the time. He presses for 90 plus minutes. He's somebody who scores a bunch of interesting goals from strange angles. And he's a very kind of odd, small, upright runner. And he's one of these guys that, when I watched him playing for the first time, kind of watching Copa Americas in like the early 2000s, it's like, who the fuck is that? Like, he looks super weird. He's got big neck tattoos. He's got stupid hair. Like, he's basically like, he's just one of those guys. He's a fascinating player, but he steps up in these huge moments for his underpowered country. And he's quite literally been the 3rd or 4th best player behind some of the most decorated South American players in the entire world over the last generation. And he is fun, he is energetic, he is committed, and he scores all these big, huge, weird goals that makes him an absolutely fascinating player. And ever since I started watching Chile and kind of got pulled into it, certainly with Alexis Sanchez coming to Arsenal, but even before that, he's one of those guys that I just couldn't stop enjoying how he plays. And even now, where he's kind of on the physical wane, because he's been playing this in the same way that like Alexis Sanchez has been playing a press style for like 15 years, and has played like an insane amount of international games. Vargas is one of those guys that's in his early 30s now, and I'm sure he's going to retire in the next couple of years, but I've really appreciated watching him, and he's been one of my all-time favorite non-Arsenal players, and in ways that I can describe as I just did, and ways that I can't quite describe. And sometimes your favorite players are the guys that just hit some of these notes and do some of these things that maybe aren't measured in the stats and aren't completely obvious to other people, that make you really appreciate and love them and love how they play and their commitment to the game. And he's just one of those guys that I've done nothing since I became aware of him. 8 to 9 years ago, I've done nothing but enjoy every single time I've got to watch him play, whether it be in the Mexican domestic league or more commonly for Chile internationally. And that's it. I think he's an outstanding and underrated player. And most of you will forget by the end of my rant here who I'm even fucking talking about, but Eduardo Vargas, who plays in the Brazilian league and more famously for Chile, and won a couple Copa Americas with them.
No, I remember him mostly from La Liga, and I believe, I know this isn't saying much, Arsenal were linked with him at one point in time, if I remember correctly, before he moved again out of Spain. So I know who you were talking about. I was baffled, like Kelly with his left field picks, of course.
It's not even a windup. I really, really, really like. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And he genuinely is, and he has been for a while. It's not me being a hipster or doofus. Like, I really, really like watching Vargas play. He's one of my favorite players.
What's hilarious is that I've never seen Eduardo Vargas ever mentioned on Twitter, and then Feinberg actually posted about him today. Like, has there ever been a player who scored more for his country than he has for his club, to the extreme that he has? And Eduardo Vargas was the guy that he referenced, and I was like, Kelly, you got to get on this because you guys are on like the same wavelength today. Eduardo,
I sent like 10 messages in a row without replying in our back channel, going, "Oh my god, oh my god." He's been mentioned. I've had an alert on Twitter for the last decade, and it's never pinged besides right now.
And now you're talking about, look at this.
Now, Sebi, as we're closing into your top two, I'm gonna throw out an honorable mention for you, if I will. I'm gonna say nostalgia really played a part on your picks here, because I was amazed that Benzema did not make your top five, because I know you and I both love ourselves some Benzema. So I was amazed, but we're closing in on your number 2, which is your 4th pick.
I mean, Benzema's a nice guy. I met him and all, sold him a pair of shoes.
Of course you did, yeah.
This man right here, Robert Perez.
What did you sell Perez?
I never.
He has to think about it.
Unfortunately, I was off the day he came in, but the guy, just the first time I saw him play, he was wearing this kit in the 3rd game of France '98 against Denmark. In France '98, he was still really young. He was just got called up to the national team, and it was the 3rd game. They already had won the group. They already qualified for the next round, and it was a game against Denmark. So he threw him on there. He did fairly well. And then Euro 2000, he had the assist to David Trezeguet for the golden goal to beat Italy in the final. And just his whole career at Arsenal, I loved watching him play. He ran like a duck. I'm like, what? This guy? How does this guy play so good? But he walks and runs like a duck, and it's just mind blowing. Such an amazing player. Has so many amazing goals. For us, for Arsenal, so many just wonder goals. The chip he had, I forgot against what team we were. We were wearing those. He was wearing that goal kit, and he just chipped somebody from 30 yards out. And then one of my favorite goals of all time is against Liverpool, and it was pouring rain, and he gets the ball, and he's 25 yards out, and he just runs across the goal and just whips one in, and it goes into the far corner. It was just an amazing goal. I loved him so much. I when I was playing soccer at the time, and I kind of try to play like him. I know I stole his goal celebration. Every time I scored, I just waved my finger like this for the whole length of the pitch. I love the guy. He's such an awesome player. And in '98, he had the most smoking hot chick on the team. So effing hot. She was like a 12, man. She's so sweet. Yeah. So that he gets extra points for that, but yeah.
I believe he chipped the Villa goalkeeper, which is the new team we all love to hate these days.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well
He chipped Emi Martinez in.
Yeah,
that's
after the chip, he turned around and he just shrugged his shoulders, wagged his finger. It was amazing. Loved it.
Absolutely love it.
I grew facial hair I love the guy. I grew my hair long. I had this stupid strip down my chin. I loved it. I was trying to find a picture of me with that stupid strip down my chin, but yeah, such a cool guy.
You couldn't, huh? So, no. Okay, my second, aka my 4th pick, is the best Argentine player to ever do it, Diego Armando Maradona, a leader, a man that has split and broken the hearts of many. He had a quite amazing career, as we all know, full of controversies, full of surprises. 1994 World Cup, didn't get an opportunity to finish that one, as we all know. But this is a man that not only brought a World Cup to Argentina, but one of the standout stories of his career is he went to Napoli and handed them a league title. And probably, in I don't know how many years, but one of the most amazing things is that World Cup 1988, I believe it was, where Argentina visited Italy and where they were doing the World Cup, and the stadium they were playing was in Napoli, and the Italian fans loved him so much that they decided they were split, and there were some Italian fans cheering on Argentina simply because Maradona was playing. I don't think there was any other player that have that type of impact on fans. So for me, Maradona. Go ahead.
Mikey, when he passed away this year, Napoli did a tribute kit with Argentina stripes, and they continue to wear it. And I think it's one of their best-selling kits of all time. Was the Diego Maradona tribute kit, and it's one that I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes part of the Napoli repertoire from now on. But they had a really kind of a beautiful kit with the
they almost did it, and they renamed the stadium. Correct?
Yeah,
correct. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, an absolute legend, man.
I had a buddy who went down to Napoli, and he said there was murals of him all over the city. And this was like 12 years ago, so he's still beloved over there in Napoli.
World Cup 1990. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the correction.
And he played for both Barcelona and Boca Juniors, and you hate both those teams. Makes no sense. Whatever.
That should tell you how good of a player he is. Now to the fake Argentine goat. Go ahead. I'm just gonna do this to you.
You're right about that.
What a segue. What a
segue to Chris number one. Go for it, Chris. After I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
I'm not doing Messi Maradona beef on this pod, Mike. We can make that a different pod if you want to. I mean, what's there left to say about Messi other than what Mike's going to say, that he's never won a Champions League without Xavi Hernandez? But I watch football in large part to get myself out of my seat and appreciate something that feels like could never be able to be accomplished by a single individual player. And some of the most elite players in the world do that a few times in their career. Messi does that often every game, at least for me. And I can never get tired of watching him. He's 34 now. He's still doing things that I have no idea how he pulls it off. He's elite at pretty much every single offensive aspect of the game that there is to be, except for maybe heading. And that's because he's 5'3" or 5'4". He's tiny, right? So he doesn't head the ball, but everything else, dribbling, passing, shooting, shot creation. I mean, you name it, he does it all. And, I can't think of a single player that has me on the edge of my seat like Messi does every time I watch him play. He's just a phenom. He is an absolute gift of football. He is, he's mercurial. He doesn't talk a lot. So there's a lot of mystery to him as well, which I think just adds to the intrigue. It's like, we don't really know a lot about Messi. What we do know is that he's brilliant on the pitch. And I think that whole mystique around him just adds to the allure for me. And I don't know, I can't imagine seeing a player be as good as him after he retires. I'm sure someone will come close eventually. It may not be in my lifetime or our lifetime, but the man is just, he's insane. I don't know how he does what he does, but he does it. And I appreciate every moment I get to watch him, because it's not going to be forever. He's 34. Maybe he'll have a couple of years left at the top end of football. Maybe he'll go to the MLS. He said recently that he'd like a chance to play in the US. I have a hard time imagining that, but if he does, then we'll appreciate him while he's here, and he'll retire and he'll be known as, by many people, as the greatest of all time. So Lionel Messi it is for me.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And Kelly's
Uh-oh.
prepping his monologue.
I cannot wait to see who Kelly. Oh yeah, I know. Who Kelly is.
I know.
Wait,
Yeah.
The janitor at my high school. He was amazing.
He was amazing. If anybody has paid attention to Kelly, there's probably one person that dislikes Leo Messi more than I do, and that's Kelly's number one pick.
So without a doubt. And so I've spoken on this podcast a lot of times before. There's a weird quirk of me, like, so you remember from the movie Goodfellas when he talks about when they're talking about with Jimmy, right? So Robert De Niro's character, and he said he's the kind of guy who root for the bad guys in movies. That's me. So I have this bizarre fascination with athletes that are villains, and there's no bigger villain in this generation of footballers than Sergio Ramos. He is my favorite player. He is somebody who I watch every single game I can. I have no affiliation with the Spanish national team. I don't give a shit about Real Madrid, frankly. He is my favorite player because there's never been a player who's been so deliberately awful and shithousing and still been so good. He's by any objective measure between appearances and honors and goals and style is the one of the best center backs ever to play. But he's also has this whole other side of him. He's the biggest son of a bitch in sports. He famously has the most. Think of how good you have to be to play in the Spanish national team in Real Madrid, have that many red cards and have that many discipline problems, and still get picked for like a decade and a half. He's going to retire with over 100 total goals. He's going to be one of the all-time high scorers for Real Madrid, and he's a center back. And he does this, and he's made. I mean, I think he has the record it's he and Messi and Ronaldo for most like all-time world 11s that he's made. He has been one of the best center backs in the world for like 15 years, and it's staggering that especially when you go back and look through his history, he's this guy who showed up with like long hair and a baby face, and you think this is going to be this kind of nice boy that plays for Spain like all the rest of them. And he'll just beat the fucking shit out of you. And he has this kind of dirty grime to his game that I love so much. And he's just one of those guys again who just captures your imagination as somebody, especially somebody who loves people who wind people up and villains and people who don't fucking. He threw Carlos Pulo to the ground by his face and made him look like a fucking asshole in front of everybody. That's amazing. Threw him to the ground. He 2 foots Leo Messi. You can't do that. But he fucking does it and doesn't care. He goes and pushes Xavi on his way up the pitch. There's nobody who, and I include Zlatan in this. There's nobody.
All of our other top 5 picks,
he's certainly going and 2-footed all of them. But he's a guy who has who not only, he's not a fake, he's fucking nails. Always. And he doesn't give a fuck. And he still wins everything. And he's won everything multiple times. And he's still playing. And he's going to go somewhere. And I pray he doesn't go anywhere now that they just released him today. I pray he doesn't go stop that. I pray he doesn't go anywhere that I dislike, because he is my favorite footballer ever. I love him. It's going to be so sad for me when he quits. And he's, again, one of those bizarre. There will never be a player like him, ever. He ripped Mo Salah's arm out of his socket in a Champions League final and stayed on the pitch and kept playing, and they won. There's nobody in the history of football.
Liverpool were playing way better than Madrid that day until he ripped his arm out of his socket and said, "See you later. I want to win this thing."
There's never been somebody who will do the terrible things that need to be done to win the biggest things like Sergio Ramos, and there probably will never be again, ever. And I love him for that, because if I could have any athlete's career ever, and if I could absorb any personality on a human level and play football or play sports at that level, it's him. He is the greatest, most evil genius of football that has ever lived and ever will. And I love that player, and pass it on. But he's my favorite football player ever. Fair
enough. I for one was not surprised when you sent me that pick, and Chris said something in the private chat that was pretty spot on. Sergio Ramos is the anti-Philip Lahm. Pretty much. There's no speak about yin and yang, man.
He's Bizarro. Philip Lahm.
There you go. All right. Moving forward with Seb's number 1 pick. No surprise here. If anybody knows Seb for 5 minutes, they know this much.
I love
bringing
him.
Up the kit, Seb.
I love him. Listen, I even got a bootleg, ridiculous kit. That's how much I love this guy. He is. He made me fall in love with the game. Like watching him play, it like he was 3 steps ahead of everybody. And if you're listening to this on audio, it's Zidane. Just amazing player. Just pull things out of the hat. Just won the World Cup for France. 2 goals against Brazil in the final. Just amazing player. I can't. I'm almost in tears. You guys ever hear of stigmata? You know what that is? When your hands start bleeding or whatever. I had the privilege of meeting Zidane.
Ooh,
and what happens after that? I lose all my hair. And I don't care. I don't care because he did that to me. He did that to me. I had a full head of hair. I wasn't losing it. A few weeks later, saw a few falling down, but like just the things he would do. When I was playing football, after seeing him play, like I changed my entire game. I was like, I want to play like him. I practiced roulettes for like 3 hours a day and was thrilled to shit when I was able to do that in a game and just make somebody look stupid the way he did when he played. Just an amazing player. Won everything. Won the World Cup. Won the Euros. Won the Champions League with one of the greatest Champions League goals of all time when he volleyed a ball with his weak foot out of the air from outside the box, top bins. Just I took my pants off and I jerked off. That's how freaking sexy that goal was. I'm sorry. Feinberg, I'm sorry. We might get canceled from this.
We are here. Comment. We are at that point of the podcast.
Sorry,
we're at that point of the podcast. See, what happens when we podcast for too long? We start to get a little wacky. Yeah, it happens. Happened. No.
Wacky is an appropriate use of that, Mike.
And
very wacky.
And it breaks my heart how it ended for him in international play. In the World Cup final against Italy, and what's his name? Fucking Mazzarazza was the Italian player that winded him up.
Materazzi.
Yeah, and he headbutted him. I went into hiding for a month after that game because. It was more for what happened to him than France losing the final. He's my favorite player of all time, and it just broke my heart that it ended that way for him.
Sebi, I think it makes it better for him, honestly, because in that moment, he don't give a fuck. He's done everything. You are not talking about his sister in the Champions League fight. Your ass is getting headbutted. That's better. I think that makes him. You should feel better about that pick.
But that's the only time where Kelly's like, I kind of rate him now.
I get it. Go on.
That's like Kelly's thing, right?
Kelly's like, oh wait, he did what?
He's finally getting
interested down right now. The headbutting, right? More of that.
It killed me. It killed me that it ended that way for him. Like it was the perfect fairy tale ending if he could have just lifted the trophy up one last time. And it ended that way, a red card in the final, and then we lost on penalties to Italy. And it killed me. He was so immense in that World Cup, too. The clinic he put on Brazil in that game where he was just toying within midfield. He was pulling the strings that entire game. He was lobbing balls over Ronaldo's face. Like he thought he was going to get the header, and he just lobbed it right over him, chested it, and then headed it over to Patrick Vieira. It was amazing. He had the assist in that game, a beautiful free kick, and Thierry Henry scored. Just an amazing player, and I love him. I think he's God to me. I love everything about him. Like my wife thinks I'm crazy. The amount of like stuff and how much I talk about him to this day. He's the greatest player of all time. And the day Real Madrid played Arsenal in the semifinals in 2006, it was like mommy and daddy fighting. I couldn't.
Stubby's now gonna take the next 20 minutes of the pod to pull out like Zidane and Henry jerseys from the floor next to the chair.
It broke. Yeah, Zidane, and you're all wrong on your number one picks because Zidane is the greatest of all time. Sorry.
All right. Wow.
Ouch.
And Kelly left.
I wasn't prepared for a Sebi 10-minute monologue on Zidane there.
I love him. Look how I look because of him.
Okay, fair enough. So, listeners, for those of you that don't know, I could be a bit of a troll every once in a while in my DM groups. So I often like to challenge Chris with Messi. I've gone so far to start comparing Toni Kroos with Zidane, saying, well, I don't know, Seb, they've won the same. They've both played in Madrid, and I'm trying to bait this man. And credit to Sebi, he didn't snap on me, but I took it a little too far that day. But I do the same with Kelly for mind you. So Kelly and I first pick have something in common, in which his first pick, his number one player of all time, looks up to my number one player of all time. And that is the legendary, the eternal Paolo Maldini. Now, respect on both ends. All with all jokes aside, Sergio Ramos, obviously, he has spoken very highly. Has looked up to Paolo Maldini for a very long time. But Paolo Maldini himself, when questioned if there was an heir to his best center back throne, he called it from a very, very early on age. He said Sergio Ramos. He himself identifies Sergio Ramos as the next great thing. So again, we're talking about a few qualities that I like in players here. Paolo Maldini not only represented Italy, which is one of my favorite European squads to follow because of all the brilliant players they have, but the longevity at the top level of his career is just astonishing. The fact that he's played through so many different eras in football. He is a one-club player, which is rare and far in between. Respected by all, loved by all. Now the director of football of Milan, and of doing just a smashing job. Just his name still holds weight in the world of football. So I guess what Zidane is to Sebi is Maldini is to me. I cannot be more in love with a player that started off as left back, ended up being a center back by the time I started watching football more consistency. But he played with some of the greatest players. To play and to be able to say he defended against both Maradona and Messi, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. So amazing stuff. So for me, Paolo Maldini is my number one pick on favorite player of all time. All right, gentlemen, we have arrived at the goals finally. And I know this is going to bring back a lot of fond memories because something about football, the most beautiful thing about football is when we're in the zone, it's almost like flashbacks. You could remember almost where you were when certain goals went in. So we're going to start off with Chris, number 5. This is a bittersweet one for me when I was picking it out and organizing it. But Chris, you're up next, sir. Go for it. Oh, Chris, I had that one confused with another one of your picks. Go for it.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Kiers.
Sorry, guys.
No worries.
This is I don't know if anybody remembers this one. This is the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, and it was executed by a former Arsenal player who played not very long for Arsenal, but Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who played for Holland. And he was 35 at the time. I think this is his last year he ever played competitive football. And this is a semifinal game. So you're thinking, who's going to be the guy that's going to step up for Holland in a 0-0 tie to break the tie, to send Holland to the next round, to the final, I think it was. And it was Gio van Bronckhorst, of all people. If you can't tell from this, or if you can't remember the goal, Gio van Bronckhorst receives the ball on the left side. He's a left back. And he takes a touch in front of him to get the ball out about 5 yards ahead of him. And he just absolutely drills the ball from about 40 yards away, and hits top bins, upper right-hand postage stamp on the goalkeeper, which was Muslera, I think, for Uruguay. And it was just the most unexpected goal you've ever seen, because it was just from a guy you would never expect to hit a ball like that. I love a laser long-range kick. One of my favorite goals of all time is Aaron Ramsey's volley against Galatasaray in the Champions League, where basically the ball just does this for like 25, 30 yards. Well, this was that, maybe a little bit less impressively because it wasn't a volley. It was fully off the ground. But for 35 yards, the ball was basically 8 feet off the ground the entire time. And it only dipped once it hit the back of the net. And it was just a thing of beauty. One of the best long distance strikes you'll ever see. So that is my number 5.
Chris, I'm going to continue on with you so we could carry on, just because we're a little bit on a.
Yep.
We really got into depth with this, so we're having too much fun. So go ahead and give us your number 4 while you're at it, sir.
Sure.
It is boo-hoo from me.
Sorry, Mikey. This is my troll. I have trolls coming for Sebi and Kelly, but this is my troll from Mikey. Maxi Rodriguez versus Mexico in the 2006 World Cup in Germany. This was in extra time. I think it was the 98th minute, 100th minute, somewhere in there. And Mike actually reminded me in our back channel while we were talking about this that actually Mexico was really dominating the game. They were in full control. They looked like they were going to win the game, or if they weren't going to win the game, they certainly weren't going to lose the game in extra time. And Maxi Rodriguez receives a long ball from, 35, 40 yards, chests the ball, puts it onto his left foot and swings it through. It was a lot like the goal that James Rodriguez scored that everybody talks about all the time in the World Cup, except this was under immense pressure against Argentina, and I think did with probably even better technique. It was an impressive piece of eye candy in a really high-intense atmosphere, and a game that meant a lot, and a game where they maybe probably shouldn't have won, and he made it look quite easy. It was a heartbreaker for Mexico, a heartbreaker for Mike, but it was pure elation for Argentina and neutral fans. So love that goal.
I don't think I've ever seen my father that upset on a soccer game other than that one. For me, the one that broke me, or just a World Cup one that broke me, was the Robin dive, the hashtag no era penal. I left the viewing party, but the Mascherano goal that came out of nowhere was so heartbroken. I can't remember the last time I saw my father so upset over a game. But speaking about being upset and the twisted mind that is Kelly, who provided me with this brilliant picture. Kelly, go ahead with your number 5.
All right, so this one, this one is me. So my background is I'm half German, and in like full-blooded, like off the boat German. Like, so my national team allegiance is to Germany in European competitions, and so when it's not the United States, they are my team that I cheer for. And this is the most surreal game that I've ever watched. I mean, obviously I was not in Brazil, but watching live, it was unexplainable. I was looking around because like my wife doesn't give a fuck about football, and like I don't have a ton of close friends to do. I was looking around like looking for somebody to look at, say, what the fuck is happening? Like this is impossible. Like if you played this out on FIFA, people would laugh and say what a stupid ass conclusion of that game. So the reason I picked that goal, so it was against the 7-1, Brazil hosting Germany, and the degree to which they took apart Brazil at home and made them look like children is staggering even to this day. It doesn't make any sense. Even when you go back and look and you understand that's not a classic Brazil squad, that is still like a 35-year-old close-up for Germany. That is not the best German squad we've seen in the last generation. And I picked the fourth goal for Toni Kroos's second goal that made it 4-0 because that was when the floodgates opened and we went, oh my God, they're out. Like they're done. They're going to lose by 10 goals. And I was that kid sobbing into his drink and like the fan, that kid right there with his like glasses pushed up and like just looking like he's gonna vomit into his Coca-Cola cup in Americana is one of the most staggering things I've ever seen. And it could have been 10-12 nothing if Germany would have stayed focused and kept their foot on the gas in Brazil in the World Cup. And it's one of those goals that I just stood up. I remember specifically standing up and looking around and going, what the fuck is going on? And that's the team I'm cheering for. I didn't believe that it was a real thing that was happening in front of me. So, and that goal kind of crystallized. It was just like, what in the earthly fuck is going on here? And when it cut to that kid's face, I will never forget that kid. And I plan to live to be very old. And I will never forget that kid like rage crying into his cup ever.
I love that picture because that was basically me, but on the other end of the emotional spectrum. Because I was telling these guys before the show, I was in London for that game, and I was in a pub surrounded by German fans, and I was the kid with almost in tears with a cup in my hand, but I had a cup of beer and I was crying tears of joy because I was so fucking happy that Germany was crushing Brazil, and I was surrounded by a bunch of Germans that were just going ape shit everywhere. So that was
unreal.
An awesome moment. I loved it.
Stick around, Omar. Stick around. All right, Kelly, number 4 for you, sir.
Or 5.
You're on. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So my number 4 is one that I'll keep short and sweet. Zlatan is one of the most talented players of all time, and the audacity against. You can see Cannavaro is facing us, fading away, back heel chip against Italy in a major tournament, and Zlatan goes upper 90 side netting. I mean, what else do you say? The audacity to try that is one thing. The talent and physical ability to pull it off is another thing. And we're talking about a goal that happened 17 years ago. That was in 2004. And he's still out there doing it. And I got to pay respects to a guy who maybe has the best highlight package of great. Maybe there might not be a player with 10 better goals than Zlatan scored in his illustrious career. And I'll keep it short and sweet. And that was one of his very best.
Absolutely lovely stuff. Now we're going up to Seb. First pick and position number 5 for you, our GOAT. Go for it, Seb.
Bergkamp against Argentina, 1998. It was a ball crossed over like 20, 30 yards, and he catches it with the outside of his boot, and then he catches the ball, and then he looks off balance, and then he gets control again, and then he just lobs it into the far corner of the goal with the outside of his boot. It was just amazing. And then I remember watching that game and then seeing Ortega and Batistuta crying. It was just great. One of my best friends from high school was a huge Argentina fan, and he would not shut up about Argentina and how great they are and how they were going to destroy everybody in the World Cup. And I was so happy that Bergkamp did this to them. It just I was crying tears of joy because I was just annoyed at my friend who wouldn't shut up about Argentina.
It was bittersweet for me, to say the least. Liking Argentina and watching Bergkamp do that. So
it was great.
Number 4 for you, Seb.
Kelly, same goal. I was watching that game with like 12 like Swedish people, and it was amazing. I had the best night of my life after that game. It was so much fun. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but the back heel volley chip, it was just
I can't think of one like it.
The audacity for him to try that at that point in the game, it was just amazing.
For sure.
Lovely stuff. So it's now time for me to pour a little ice on these Germans on this podcast. Number 5 for me, the second, El Fenomeno, 2-0 World Cup 2002, I believe it was. Brazil came back from that horrible 1998 defeat to reclaim the champions. That era of Brazil from the 90s to early 2000s were just peak football in my eyes. And I had to pick one out of many of Ronaldo's great goals in the World Cup. And I went with the World Cup final with the half moon haircut thing that he had going on that nobody freaking understood. But absolutely brilliant on Ronaldo, just topping off his longevity, his great international career. I just picked one of the many, many great goals that he had in World Cups and throughout his whole career. So,
incidentally, that haircut is what people have to do when they lose bets these days. So that was an absolutely insidiously terrible haircut. If I've ever
and he made that a thing.
I know.
That's how crazy. That's how good he was. He made that a thing. Like Zidane made bald a thing, right, Debbie? Yeah. Okay.
At least for me.
At least for you.
If only Debbie, you would have met Ronaldo and he'd have been your idol, and you could be having this patch in the front of your head right now.
It's coming in on my number 2 on my list. How could I not? Luis Hernandez once again make an appearance for me. So this was against Netherlands, the massively talented Netherlands in 1998. It was a last-minute goal after being 2-0 down in the first half, and Mexico somehow pulled this one back. And I just remember just going into this game, watching it with my dad, and just thinking, well, this is going to be hopeless. We are going to get just mauled by this great Dutch team, and there's nothing we could do about it. And last-minute ditch, this ball just falls, bounces between a few defenders, and falls at the feet of Luis Hernandez, who just barely managed to toe poke it past the goalie. And my household just went absolute ape shit. And that is 1998 is one of the World Cups that I remember the most as watching with my father and following how everything worked out in that World Cup. So near and dear to my heart, to say the very least. But yeah, just very few things in football that are better than last minute wins or ties. So just being such heavy underdogs, just watching Luis Hernandez pull that off. What a freaking great day. For me, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning at the time when I was watching it. So, but I was wide and with permission to not go to school for my father because Mexico was playing. Quality fatherhood right there, if you ask me. So, Chris, up next, we are going with RVP.
Wrong picture, but that's okay, Mike. I had a different picture that I had all set up for that's all right.
Yeah, no, you're right. I actually, now that you mention it, I got them confuzzled. I got them all confuzzled.
It's all good.
It's here somewhere, I promise. I don't know where it is.
Well, I purposely picked a picture of Van Persie basically doing his best impression of a Flying Dutchman in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. But what you see behind him is Sergio Ramos.
There it is. Found it.
Yeah,
Sergio the one mistake he's made in his career.
I'm surprised he didn't kick the shit out of Van Persie before he ever got a chance to head the ball. But
fair, very fair.
Ramos did not look great on this goal. I watched it the other day just to kind of dissect it, and he kind of went to sleep. And Daley Blind, who served the ball to Robin Van Persie from the left wing, found Van Persie making that darting run. And, I don't know how technically difficult this is. It probably is pretty technically difficult, but I just never, there was a novelty of this goal. I've never seen someone fly through the air and hit a header like that, like Robin Van Persie did. And it was against a Spain team that had just been one of the most dominant forces in international football for 4, 5, 6 years. Mm-hmm. And that was, I believe, the first goal of that game that eventually ended in a 5-1 win for Holland. They just absolutely destroyed Spain. But I think it was that goal, which is at the end of the first half, that I think just absolutely crushed Spain's spirit. And, it's, you think about the goals that stick with you over a course of many years. And that goal by Van Persie, I'll never forget what aesthetically what it looked like. Just a guy flying through the air, hitting a ball, looping it over one of the best goalkeepers in the world in Iker Casillas, and just amazing.
Lovely stuff. Moving on to number 2 on your list, Chris.
Oh, yes. We've talked about Zlatan a lot, but for me, this is my favorite goal by Zlatan. It wasn't a friendly. I know Mike Feinberg mentioned this earlier. It doesn't dampen the fact that this is probably the wildest goal I've ever seen. I think he scored a hat trick in this game, and I believe this was perhaps the last of the 3 goals he scored in like 12 minutes. I think how it went was there was a long ball that hit Joe Hart. Joe Hart headed the ball fairly poorly. Joe Hart had a terrible game, and you'd love to see screamy Joe Hart have a bad game. But he didn't head it very far, and Zlatan starts chasing the ball. And I remember Joe Hart kind of running after Zlatan, and then he realizes, oh crap, this is Zlatan. He's going to do something crazy, isn't he? And all of a sudden, Zlatan kind of twists and does a scissor kick, bicycle kick from like, how far was it? 35, 40 yards?
Yeah, it was like 40 yards.
Yeah, from like the far right of the field, and he looped it over 2 defenders who were trying to track back to save the ball from going into the net. And I want to ask you guys: do you guys know who the defender was that was trying to prevent the ball from going in?
Somebody Arsenal related.
No, well, yes, it was. It was Ryan fucking Shawcross. That guy that guy only had 1 cap in his entire career. It was that game, and he played and he played 14 minutes of that game, and Zlatan scored 3 goals on him. So fuck that.
Absolutely.
You're talking about Inter Miami star Ryan Shawcross. Is that who you're talking about?
Inter Miami.
Okay.
1 cap. And he'll be most remembered for that 1 cap as being the guy that was playing when Zlatan scored a hat trick in those 12 of those 14 minutes that he played, and being the guy that tried to save the audacious goal that Zlatan scored. So love it.
Lovely stuff. Kelly, you're up next. We're overlapping on this one.
Yeah, Chris covered this well. It's the audacity and technique, and again, these were not fucking mugs. This was the back end of the elite Spain team that won 2 Euros and a World Cup. And in a lot of ways, that goal was the death of that team. Was throwing the shovel of dirt on the grave of that great, maybe probably the best Spain team ever. Mm-hmm. And again, it's the audacity, it's the technique, and it's Iker Casillas, who I think is maybe the greatest goalkeeper of all time, standing rooted to his spot, not being able to move because there's not a fucking thing he could have done. And it's an amazing goal, and it's a guy too that, speaking of villains, and my penchant for villains, he's somebody who I think was probably the player who made me fall in love with Arsenal. So he's always going to have a place in my heart for that reason, and that was maybe him. It was Van Persie at the last time where he was at his greatest. What was that tournament and that goal specifically?
Lovely stuff. Kelly, you're up next with your number 2 pick in your top 5.
So this is I've realized through this process I have this weird fascination with South America that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and not traditional South America, like not Brazil, not Argentina, but everybody else. So Uruguay is a team that I really, really like. They're a nation that is tiny, landlocked, and doesn't make any sense that they've won the World Cup and continues to put forth a bunch of world-class players. And one of those players that is one of my favorite players of all time that I couldn't cheer for because of his Man United connection is Diego Forlan. And that when you talk about kind of watching tournaments and players tournaments that you truly love and admire, the 2010 World Cup in South Africa was Diego Forlan's tournament, and he was one of the most fun, exciting, again, audacious player. It was the absolutely the peak of his career, and he had two different goals there. One, he had that kind of 35-yard knuckleball, whose picture you saw, and then also it weaves together the things that I love in a game in that quarterfinal when Uruguay beat Ghana was grit and skill and audacity and evil. Because it was tied 1-1. It was a very long goal. I can't remember who scored the long goal for Ghana, but Forlan had a free kick about 20 yards away from goal on the left-hand side, and instead of bending it for a cross like you'd think he would do, he bent this outrageous long goal that it was like it had a curve and a knuckle on it, and just completely turned the goalkeeper inside out and evened it at 1-1. And later that game, as we all recall, was Luis Suarez laying down his life for his country and saving the ball off the line with his hand, and then the ensuing penalty in extra time going off the crossbar, and then Uruguay going on to win that game. That's my favorite game. It's like that is how, again, because I'm a twisted, terrible human being, that's how I would want to win a game. That's how I'd want to win a World Cup game, because it's everything. It's grit, it's determination, it's skill, it's spite, it's evil, and it's a bad guy doing a bad thing, but for a good reason and winning. And I think specifically in that tournament, that Uruguay team specifically is one of my favorite teams of all time, because they not only were very good football players and not only very dynamic football players, but they would murder your whole family to win the game, and they almost got all the way to the World Cup final with that on the front end of that golden generation too. And so again, he was the good to Luis Suarez's evil for that team and that tournament that I remember pretty fondly.
Sweet, that's excellent, Kelly. You're an interesting person, Kelly. All right.
Hard to argue.
Kelly, Sebi's been having a time of his life in the last couple of podcasts, let me tell you. All right, Sebi, going on to your number 3 pick here. What do we got? Let's see.
That's my number 2.
Oh, number 2.
Oh, my number 2.
No. Sorry, Seb. That was your number 2. This is number 3, yeah? Or, sorry, I got you.
Okay, so this is I'll switch it around. Whatever, same shit. David Trezeguet, golden goal versus Italy in the Euro final. A young whippersnapper a short-haired young whippersnapper by the name of Robert Perez had a lovely run down the wing and just crossed the ball into the box in extra time. And David Trezeguet, I think one of the best, like, fox in the box, just footballers of all time. Just lovely half volley on the ball, sets it top bins, wins the game with a golden goal. The reason I love this goal so much is because I live in a very big Italian neighborhood. My best friends growing up were Italian. So all day, I was hanging out with my buddies all day that day. I had dogs abuse all day. I was wearing my France kit everywhere, Italian flags everywhere, getting the old Italian grandmas spitting, all the Italian grandfathers giving me this, just giving me shit abuse all day. We went and had lunch at a pizzeria. The freaking owners are laughing at me. Italy go up that game and took the lead. My best friend jumps out of his seat, runs in front of me, and biffs me, and then starts laughing at me. And then David Trezeguet scores a golden goal in extra time in the final. It was all worth it. I was so freaking happy. I just gave everybody so much shit. I jumped onto my friend's lap. I was fucking giving him nuggies. I was like, "Who's laughing now?" Fuck yeah. It was the best. It was so much fun. That's why I love that goal.
Love it, dude. Absolutely love it. Number 2 on your list, sir.
Okay, Lilian Thuram, semifinal World Cup 1998. He's never scored a goal for France. We had just went down to Croatia in the semifinal because of his mistake. He played somebody onside, and then Davor Suker scored the goal to take the lead in the second half. Within 15 seconds of watching the replays, and me and my cousin who was visiting me from France at the time were just like our heads down, like, oh no, it's gonna end here. We're watching the replays. The replays stop. The game has continued, and Thuram, within 15 seconds, scores the equalizer to make amends of his mistake for the Davor goal. Just amazing. Like complete euphoria. Like we just lost our minds. And then 15 minutes later, he scores the winner. He's only scored 2 goals in his career, and we're just both in that game to send France to the final of the World Cup. And Lilian Thuram, it's just, I'll never forget that day.
Lovely stuff. And first and foremost, I'm just going to take this time and say sorry, Brits, for what I'm about to do. But speaking about a man that did something very, very wrong, but for the right reasons, as Kelly would say, my GOAT, Diego Armando Maradona. I mean, if you take the time to observe the technique of this header, and how a man so short was able to jump that high. Listen, guys, I've had this debate with you guys before, and I threw out that, as ridiculous as it sounds, VAR, I know that it's there to stop things like this, but for me, a goal like this represents a big part of what football is. The football is full of this type of shithousery. And so I'd be lying to tell you I watched it live. I know of the goal. I know how it played out, and I know what happened. And I absolutely fucking love it. The audacity to try that shit, to go on, celebrate it, to deny it. And then when being called out, he just started like, yeah, who gives a shit? I did it. So open, dude. Just fuck, talk about villains, dude. That man could not give less fucks when he did that. So satisfying, right, Mikey? Oh yeah, I loved it. Absolutely. So Diego Armando Maradona, goal versus completely legit header versus England. Absolutely love it. So speaking of headers, guys, I like myself some goals heads. I think they require a lot of technique, and I could appreciate the power of getting up high. This is semifinal 1998 World Cup, if I do remember correctly. This is one of the better football matches that I could remember at this point in time in my World Cup watching career, if you will. And this is Patrick Kluivert scoring a 1-1, scoring the second goal of the game, making it 1-1, going into semifinals where the Dutch ultimately lost to Brazil. But it was one of the most entertaining football games that I've ever seen, and just the power that Kluivert just had a way of finishing with headers that was just absolutely brilliant, and that will always just kind of stay etched in my head, if you will. So, gentlemen, we have arrived to our top goals. So let's see what we got. Chris, sir, you are up next. Let's go. What would you?
Sebi talked about it earlier, but it's the Bergkamp goal against Argentina, 1998. Again, I talked about how 1998 was really instrumental in my formation of my relationship with soccer, football. And some of the goals that I appreciate most or even just the qualities in a player that I appreciate most are those things that I absolutely have zero of in my own footballing career as a high school player who was pretty average, playing center back and right back. And probably the worst quality that I had as a footballer was my first touch. And Bergkamp was the exact opposite. That guy, I've never seen a guy have a better first touch than Dennis Bergkamp. And I think that his first touch is on display for all to see in that goal, because he basically takes a 60-yard pass, or however long it was. There's a really, really long pass. And he caresses it with his right foot, and it drops right in his path, in his stride. He then jabs at the ball with his other foot to get inside the defender, and then he has the composure to finish in the way that he does against a helpless goalie. And when I saw that, I was just like, I have no idea how he does that. It was a goal that got me up out of my seat. It was a goal that I had more questions than I had answers about. And it's another guy who I think was instrumental in me loving Arsenal, was Dennis Bergkamp. And a lot of that was that goal, because that goal was simply world-class. Had never seen anything like it before, may not see anything like it again. That was an unbelievable goal. I'll never forget it. Won't forget where I was when I was watching it. I was in college, watching with a bunch of buddies who could care less about soccer, but I think I changed some of their opinions that day when we were watching it. So it was an awesome goal.
It's the simple genius of making a game that's so difficult look so easy. And maybe that's that defines Bergkamp and some of those goals for me. It's that there's never been a guy who made this game, it's so fucking hard, look so easy as Dennis Bergkamp did.
I still have no idea how he trapped that ball. It was
no idea.
No,
amazing.
Very few players had that first touch, dude.
Oh, amazing.
It's like first touch wise, just top of my head. I think of like Ronaldinho, Zidane, Bergkamp. Just you like a Spanish, or not Spanish. He spoke in Spanish he's from Chile. Luis Omar Tapia, and he used to just say he put a pillow on his chest or put a pillow on his foot. That's how he would describe it. But just the manner in which he could just absolutely just get a ball going like whatever miles an hour and just kill it completely. I would never understand it. It's just freaking brilliant first touch.
The other aspect to that goal that I think helps create the aura around it was the Dutch commentator who just starts yelling, Dennis Bergkamp, Dennis Bergkamp, Dennis Bergkamp, like over and over again. The commentator was so speechless. He didn't know what to say except for just repeat his name over and over again. Because it was just such a fucking awesome goal that what do you say about it? You let it speak for itself, and you commend the guy who pulls it off, because there are no words to describe the genius of that goal. There just isn't. So I thought it was a brilliant call of the goal in addition to the goal itself.
Lovely stuff. Kelly, you're number one. Shit house of a goal. I love you for choosing this one, sir.
On brand. So a couple different threads again. Again, I'm very much a South America file for football. I live in the Western Hemisphere, and I admire how we play. Like the filth and energy and relentlessness and heart and sweat and tears that people in this hemisphere put into their football, whether it's Americans or Mexicans or Central Americans and South Americans. I really do think that makes our game in this side of the world both infuriating and beautiful at the same time, because of the just grit to which everybody in this hemisphere plays the game. And it's not always beautiful, but it's always it's people putting their hearts and souls in front of everything else. And some of the best players in the world will get down into get elbow deep into the dirt to dig out these wins, because it means so much. And so this was a goal that it has a couple different things for me. One, it's Chile, despite their golden generation, was insanely outmatched. We're talking about Aguero, Messi, Di Maria, Mascherano. These guys are in their primes, and they dug in and they ran all game and they played into extra time. And Chile, who, without winning any major trophies in nearly 100 years, on the 4th of, I remember this was on the 4th of July, when everybody else was doing anything else, I was sitting in front of my TV watching this. And again, with the Alexis drawn and everything too, they gutted it out. They took yellow cards, they took fouls, they got all the way to extra time against Messi and Aguero and this great Argentina generation. And Claudio Bravo stopped. I'm trying to think who did Bravo stop before this. Ever Banega stopped. I think Higuain, I think, missed either off the post or got a shot saved, and Ever Banega was stopped. Their shot was stopped, and it was up to Alexis to take this. And what does he do when his country hadn't won a major tournament in almost 100 years? Panenka.
Yeah.
He takes the Panenka with these just giant balls to do that in that situation. He takes the Panenka and he knows it's in. He dropped Sergio Romero and was sprinting to the left corner flag. And I remember, again, it's one of those things that I remember just by myself jumping up and down, going like, holy shit. And again, that was at a time where Alexis occupied a space in our hearts in that kind of 18 months where he was one of the very best players in the entire world and he was ours. And it was one of those, like, you kind of like the rush of emotions you feel for a player that you really love, and for a country you have no connection to, but feel their pain as an American soccer fan that just doesn't get to win stuff. To watch this kind of little skinny fucking goofy country beat Argentina in a championship, and it was like it was so. And I remain invested in that generation of Chilean footballers. And it was just so fun to see our Arsenal guy, go up and take that penalty and have the audacity to do that and sprint to the corner flag and win that for his country. It was really, really one of my favorite goals of all time, not because of the actual goal itself, but because of everything surrounding it. And again, the audacity to do what he did in that situation is truly just a magnificent for him and his country. And again, he's going to have a bronze statue of himself somewhere in Santiago, probably.
Kelly, I just realized that I'm the Chile of human beings. I'm also skinny and goofy. So you had me dead at that.
No, Kelly, that's a great. I loved that game. When Alexis was playing for us, like, I was all in on Chile for Copa America, and they were like 3 Copa Americas in like 4 months when he was playing for us.
Yeah,
and I was cheering for them every single tournament because they were so much fun to watch. Because, like you said, the dirt, grime, and do anything to win. Just the heart of that team made you want to cheer for them. I loved it. And when he did that, like I said, I pulled my pants down. And just...
I'm glad we weren't watching together. So.
Sevi seems to always end up doing that for every
every story.
There might be something you want to look into there, Sev.
That's why he's not working in retail anymore.
Number 5 could not have picked a better goal against the.
This goal makes me so happy. I was in a bar in Queens with my brother, and at the time we were both working at a French restaurant. So all these French guys from all over France, we were like 12 of us deep here for the Euros. It was the opening game of the Euros against England, and we're in a bar in Queens, and it's 12 of us. And the entire bar is all English and just 12 of us. And the entire game, just the frog this, frog that, just the racist shit that was being thrown at us the entire game. And they take the lead because a fat Frank Lampard gets lucky on a freaking header. And then Barthez saves a penalty against Beckham later on in the second half. And it's the 90th minute, and these English bastards are just throwing shit, dog's abuse on us. Just all this crap they're saying to us. We're gonna win 1-0 the entire second half, and then there's a foul outside the box, And Zidane takes the ball, he places it down, and I'll never forget this moment. This Japanese kid in a Beckham shirt sitting like 4 people down from me and and all of us yells, "Zidane sucks." And it was just like a record stop, and like the 12 of us just stopped and looked at him, and I pointed at him and I said, "Watch what you say." And then Zidane takes his free kick over the wall, far left corner, top bins. David James is rooted to the ground, and I lost. Like, we didn't sing the entire match because we were just getting it. It was 12 of us and like hundreds of English people just yelling at us the entire game, so we couldn't really say much. I lost my voice in 15 seconds of just yelling and cursing at all these bastards who gave us shit the entire game. And what makes it even better, at the restart, Steven Gerrard plays a back pass, and then Thierry Henry gets taken down in the box, and then who steps up to take the penalty? Zidane again, within a minute of tying the game, and then we stole the game away from these fucking assholes that just were so racist and just the shit they were saying to us the entire game. It was so great. I loved every second of it. And then after the game, they left, and I'm sitting by the window of the bar, and I look out the window, and there's this little English kid who was in there with his dad, and you see he's just heartbroken. And I look at him, I knock on the window, and he looks up at me, and then I point to my chest, I show him the cock, and he just puts his head down in shame and walks away in tears. I loved every second of it. I made an 8-year-old cry, and I'll never forget it.
So good.
That's Sebi's version of Kelly's joy in seeing the Brazilian fans crying in their cups. It's awesome.
I loved every single second of it. It was amazing.
That's great.
I don't even want to follow you up on that story. Shit, Sam. Okay. Let's get mine out there. Again, near and dear to my heart. Again, this represents a good time in my life in which I was scoring a lot at school, and I decided to skip school this particular game, and it's Italy versus Mexico 2002 World Cup with my 2 defender idols, which is Alessandro Nesta and Paolo Maldini in frame, with one of the most sickest freaking headers that I've ever seen. He kind of got it like on the half turn. He was positioned awkwardly because, as you can see, Maldini is pushing him out there, and somehow this man jumps up in the air halfway, twists, and hits the ball that curves around. I think it was Buffon at that point in time, with a damn near impossible angle. And just the way the ball curved and went in, it was a 2-2 draw, if I remember correctly. Some of these goals and some of these games, I remember the actual game and can't really remember the results. Some as weird as that sounds, but I did Borghetti, look it up. It was one of the most absolutely filthiest headers that I've ever seen. So again, I know how Mexican of me to choose a Mexican for my number one, but till this day it lives scarred in my memory. So, gentlemen, we have never done this before. We have never lasted 2 hours, 2 minutes. So, for those of you that are by any chance still with us here,
I just watched the goal. I just watched the goal, Mikey. That's amazing.
It's a filthy goal.
Dude.
It is an absolute filthy goal.
Sick goal.
Yeah. I'll make sure to link it in the bio or tweet it out for people to try to get a look at that one. Hopefully we could get a thread of most awesome World Cup goals going on for the podcast. So
yeah.
We have been Not Another Arsenal podcast. debuting on the Gooners podcast tonight. Also, you can find us on Not Another Arsenal podcast, of course, on Twitter, Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, literally anywhere possible. Just type in Not Another Arsenal podcast and you will find us. We will be doing shows on the Gooner podcast every once in a while. We will not be stopping our regular reviews on our regular channel, but we decided to team up with Mikey and the gang over here at the Gooners podcast. They're absolutely great people fighting cancer, having a fundraiser, Gooners versus Cancer. Make sure you look that up. This has been absolutely brilliant, gentlemen, because it's always nice to go down memory lane, and it kind of shows that we all have not only a certain block, a certain era of football in which we all grew up. We all have fond memories of very specific eras in the last 2-3 decades. And honestly, dude, I'm so glad I get to chat football with you guys. You guys are just absolutely superb, and I'm glad we started this. September, I think it was. We gotta do something for our 1-year anniversary sooner or later. But Chris, you want to tell these lovely people where they can find you, sir?
Yeah, echo your sentiment, Mike. This is awesome. I haven't laughed this hard in a good while, maybe since the last time we potted together. So I don't know what that says about my life, but anyways, you can find me at CLAF31 on Twitter when I'm not bantering Spurs off the map. I will be talking about football generally and other host of assorted topics that you may or may not be interested in. So thanks again, Mike. This has been fun, and look forward to the next one.
Awesome stuff. How about you, Kelly?
You can find me on Twitter at South Metro AFC. Again, I think this is one of those two. I think we said in the back channel beforehand. It's like we all have been kind of raised in very different, not only in different geographic areas, but in almost different eras and different styles of football. So we knew this was going to be fun. And this is maybe one that was a little bit self-serving, but I had a fucking blast. And our different, it's amazing that we come together with our different kind of personalities and things that resonate with us, and we still love the same club. And that's kind of, I think our pod is kind of a Western Hemisphere amalgamation of what supporting a major club is like. So my cheeks hurt from smiling and laughing, and I appreciate. Also, just kind of some background. So Mike Hers does all of our producing and all of our kind of lineup stuff and everything too. And this was a great undertaking for us who normally do a little bit more pub chatty. And so for pictures and lists and spinning around, it was a huge undertaking. So thank you for that too, Mikey. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the shout. Yeah, it was a learning experience for me. Now I kind of know what I got myself into. But yeah, Kelly, I always heard people say, it's not just showing up and turning on a camera. Fuck, they were right. Podcasting, there's a little bit more to podcasting than people think, man. So it's kind of difficult to keep everything organized and coordinated. So I'm still learning. Mike, aka Magic Mike, is by far my mentor when it comes to this type of stuff. So I thrive to be him when it comes to being as organized. But thank you for the shout and the kind words, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Sebi.
Oh, dude, I've had a blast the last 2.5 hours. I thought we were gonna be in and out, maybe like an hour and 40 minutes. I loved every single second about tonight. It was so much fun talking about all this nostalgia with you guys. And you can find me at SebiV21 on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can also listen to me on my other podcasts I do with for my buddies. Not another. No.
It's late.
I can't remember. Dinner.
It'd be
podcast.
awesome if you. It'd be awesome if you do that on that podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna chime in and hopefully I could catch you because
Dinner podcasts. It's a pop culture podcast we do every week, and yeah. So, good night, guys.
Good night. Thank you so much for joining us, boys and girls. Till next time.